The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome in Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, unfortunately for you guys, back in the chair here today. I kicked Reed out. No more Reed.
Again.
Until I need him. No, I don't need him next week, but I will need him around the corner, I'm sure. No, shout out to Reed. Appreciate Reed coming in a couple days this week to fill in for me to allow me to take care of some other business stuff. I do have 2 full-time jobs, technically, I guess, if that's how you want to look at it. But, again, good Friday morning. Excited to be hanging out with all of you. We got Jimmy. Jimmy, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning. How are you?
Going with the Lions hat today. I like it.
Got my Lions hat on, I'm getting excited for the season. I didn't watch any of the game last night because, no one was playing. And then by the time I thought about, maybe I'll turn it on. I'm not doing anything right now. It was delayed. So, and then they never resumed. So I heard it was fun, I guess. The
Colin Johnson game.
The new kickoff looked weird.
I hate it.
It looked weird.
What? I hate it so much.
It looks so – I just don't like how the kicker is, just all by himself back there.
They had 12 guys on the field at one point.
Yeah.
First of all,
it's weird.
That's not good.
I love that. Jimmy, how you doing? Turn right in. I hate that damn kickoff format from last night. No, Jimmy, we're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. I didn't catch much of that game last night, but I do want to look. It was just football, though. Football was back on the TV, and that's all that mattered. But Casey, good morning. Welcome in, sir. I see the FC Cincinnati. You could tell everyone's got the FC Cincinnati hat. You got the Lions hat. Got 2 good head of hairs over here.
That's right.
So, that's why no hats over
That's
here.
right.
But, Casey, good morning.
Good morning. I did not watch the football game. I, of course, watched FC Cincinnati play.
Football. You watch the football.
I watched the football. Not to be confused with football, but with soccer. It was a interesting game. Leagues Cup. Had a skeleton crew team out there. They still got the job done. So
First win without Acosta, whichever one it is.
Acosta. Yeah.
First win.
Did it cost
Acosta
them
to
not
me.
having him out there?
Seems like it. Hey-o.
He said skeleton crew. I mean, it's like FC Cincinnati is like the Hall of Fame game every night.
Every night.
Every
night. And that's why we love the MLS, man. You just never, ever, ever get to see the good players. But that's why we love it.
But, sorry, Casey. I mean, just catching strays right off the bat. Jacob, good morning. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Football was back last night. I watched every minute of the game, and I won a bunch of bets, which was phenomenal. It feels good to be back in the swing of things.
The amount of people who admit to betting on not even a preseason game. This is like a pre-preseason
Oh,
game.
yeah. No, hitting an over in a game that ended early is just a great way to start the NFL season.
Well, you know what? We're going to switch gears here. Since we're on the Hall of Fame game, Casey, we're going to open up right with that because I think the big takeaway from last night was, the result doesn't matter. As Jimmy was already referring to, it's not as if they were throwing out their first or even second team as far as that's concerned. But the biggest takeaway, what everyone was talking about was, of course, the new kickoff format, right? And I didn't I'm a visual person. I can read what the new format's going to be like, but I have to visually see it, right? I have to see it to believe it. I have to see it to see exactly what they're trying to accomplish. And for those of you who did not get a chance to watch it last night, here's a look at what the new kickoff format looks like. Casey, if I set you up for failure by not having you ready, my apologies. But if we have it ready, everyone take a look.
It's coming. Here it comes. Right there.
Let's just watch this first one and see what.
Again, this is the new kickoff format from last night.
Just interesting.
Encourages returns. If it lands in that green box, you have to return it. So we're going to see a lot more returns. It could be exciting when teams have their starters out there.
Yeah.
I think when you have legitimate all-pro returners out there with this new system, you could get more touchdowns, which is certainly the incentive for it. They want more returns in the game. They want to reinvigorate that play while taking out some of the high-speed collisions, which is why you see those guys lined up 5 yards from each other. But personally, it just doesn't look like football to me. Like I don't really love it. It feels like a big run play because the guy catches it in the 20-yard line and there's 22 guys right in front of him, 20 guys right in front of him, banging their heads. And he doesn't really have a whole lot of space, which is the part that made kick returners phenomenal in the past, is being able to do a lot and make guys miss in open space. And you don't really have that anymore. So it's going to take a while to get used to, I think. But I'm going to hold my reservations until starters are out there, because I think it'll be a little bit more exciting. But I did not like it last night.
I do think the one problem I foresee it having is it feels like there's not like much development. It's they get past one hole and they're probably gone. Like there's not levels like there are on defense. Like you have your defensive line, your linebackers, your safeties, and usually if a guy rips a run, you might have the safety come up and make a play and keep it from resulting in a touchdown. The guy gets through the hole here, he's probably gone for a touchdown, which is why I think it's more exciting. But at the same time, it could be something to where we see like games completely flip on their head because they can't cover this guy just running through the holes every time. So
which could be fun.
It could be fun, could not be fun. We'll see.
Well, when I initially heard the Steelers come out and say that they would be entertaining the idea of putting Justin Fields back there, I thought that was absolutely ridiculous and silly. Now that I kind of see what this visually looks like. Now, this is what the XFL was doing, correct?
Modified version.
A modified version.
The bones
so
of it.
I can now see why you want to take a super athlete and put them in this position where because keep in mind both lines, if you will, can't break until the ball returner has the ball.
Right.
Once he gets the ball, that's when everyone turns and collides, and then off you go. I kind of like it from that perspective. Like, for instance, in baseball, I didn't like when they said they were going to add the runner on second in extra innings. I don't like that it's added to Major League Baseball, but I like the concept, if that makes sense. I like this concept. I don't know if I like it added to the NFL, but I do think we'll get used to it, and I do think that it will add an exciting feature to the special teams part of this, because I just thought kickoffs have just been absolutely pointless. Absolutely insanely pointless over recent years, and I get that they're trying to protect the players, this, that, and the other. They're all well trying to add an 18th game, by the way, but it's no here nor there.
Night games.
Yeah, I mean, who cares about, we love player safety, right? But no, at the end of the day, it's one of those where I think that once we see, like you said, once we see the actual starters out there and see everyone, where'd my phone go? My phone alarm's going off. Real professional stuff here to the start of the show. But no, I think once we see the actual starters out there and everyone take off, and then we start to see some of the bigger names make highlight plays, I mean, how often do you think teams are going to score off this?
I don't know for sure, but we saw a lot of kick return touchdowns in the XFL with this system, and obviously those guys.
I think a lot.
I think we're going to see a lot, and I'm also very interested to see who teams put back there. Like, if you're the San Francisco 49ers, I understand
Debo?
You don't want Debo to get hurt, but he was a hell of a kick returner at South Carolina. You put him back there, he's probably scoring 3-4 touchdowns a year, maybe more.
Well, think about the Bengals when Jamar Chase is done, being a pouty baby, and could they potentially throw him back there? You're going to want to, but I don't think as fans. Jimmy, I'm not going to want my team to put our number one wide receiver, our number one playmaker back there.
I'm still scarred.
I've heard a little bit about the Lions potentially putting Amon-Ra back there, which I wouldn't really be a fan of personally, but I mean he could do well. He's quick, he's shifty. I mean, and really all you have to do is break through one line of guys and you're scoring a touchdown. But I think it's still the idea of losing like a star player like that to an injury on a kick return would be pretty painful. But I do think there will be less injuries on kickoffs, but it's still, I wouldn't want to risk it personally.
Yeah, I would never want my star player back there. In 2020, Alabama obviously still won the national championship, but Jalen Waddle returning a kick against Tennessee snaps his ankle in half. So we lost him for basically the entire season, and that handicapped the offense. Devontae Smith picked up the slack, but you lose a star player like that makes such a bigger difference on the perspective side of the ball, whether it's a corner, a safety, or a wide receiver, running back. They make so much more of a difference at that position. I think we're going to see a lot more 5th, 6th round receivers, running backs that are drafted specifically to execute this return.
Yeah, one thing I am kind of excited for is the idea of it not being the starter for those, but do you remember Pac-Man Jones coming in on occasion on punt returns? Stuff like that, to where you might be down and you need a little spark. So you put in your best player, Jamar Chase, to try to return something. That's what I'm looking more forward to. I don't think that, like you said, I think they're going to be specialists for it at some point. 5th, 6th round makes sense. But it'll be whoever is the fastest is probably going to end up winning that job anyways. So whatever team's fastest player is probably going to end up being the guy returning it.
Man, this could have saved John Ross's Bengal career back in the day.
Could have.
right.
Really
in all seriousness,
I
I
am
mean,
very excited for Charlie Jones to return kicks with this new format. His
Well,
first touchdown
Chase
with the
Brown.
Bengal was a punt return touchdown. He was an electric returner at both Iowa and Purdue. I think he's going to be phenomenal with this new format.
the scoring clip is what I'm going to be the most fascinated by. Whether it's the scoring clip or the amount of times that you actually get into good field position. What's considered good field position off of this? Are we talking you're on 45, past the 50? What are we talking here as far as, like, what is your expect? Like, right now, it's like, okay, can you at least get to the 30 or 35 on this boring kickoff that we've had for recent years? But now it's like, I think you could realistically expect them. Last night, it just seemed they couldn't get through that line. But again, we're talking about non-starters. I feel like realistically you can get to that 35-40 pretty regularly. I think it's going to be setting up. I think you're going to see scoring go up significantly if you have an effective special return team like this.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree, but I think the average will probably be relatively the same. I think we're going to see more touchdowns, but I also think we're going to see a lot of guys who just run into the back of that line at the 20 and stop. I think you're either going to see massive returns or returns below the 25. Basically, two sides of the spectrum, and that's it, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be that interested in this, but after watching that last night, like I said, it's intrigued me.
Yeah.
People are complaining about it. People hate it. If you ask me what I'd rather just do, everyone just gets the ball at the damn 20 and just call it a day. Like, get rid of kickoffs. But that's not going to happen. So if there's going to be a kickoff, I'd much rather have this than what we've had in recent years because it's been pointless. And I'd much rather – I'm not saying I want a player to go down, but if a player goes down injured, trying to make a play in this format where there's actually plays to be made, I can sleep with that. It's hard for me to watch players go down on a kickoff that has pretty much maybe 3% chance of being taken back if you're lucky. So that's kind of where I'm at with that as far as that's concerned. But early on in the sports betting season, I would put a lot of money on the returns because it's probably going to be a good payout until they'll start to pick up, I would assume. So who knows? But all right, final vote on this. Jimmy, you like the new kickoff format or no?
I think it looks weird, but I think I'm going to start liking it when more teams are running kicks back.
Casey, thumbs up,
Yeah,
thumbs down.
I'm going to like this a lot. I already enjoyed the possibilities of it. I just know that it's going to happen eventually, like he said. As soon as they start returning stuff back and it makes a difference in the game, people will start to enjoy it more, I think.
And what about you, Jacob? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I am thumbs down. I am anti, but I think I'll come around eventually.
A big thumbs down.
Big thumbs down. It's football. Football's been a good thing for a long time now. Why do we got to change it all?
But do you think the kickoffs have been a good thing recently?
I think they're fine. I think I genuinely think it's a non-issue that they're trying to fix. And if they do fix it and it's great, then I'll be a fan. But as of now, I'm going to go on the other side.
So you enjoy watching them kick it off? Or I'm sorry, wrong camera. You enjoy watching them kick it off and like 90% of the time it's just a touchback?
Enjoy, don't enjoy, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I think it'd be weird for a kicker. You were taught to just boot the ball as far as you can, and now you're kind of – are you incentivized to kick it in that zone?
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
You think
if they don't, it's placed on the 35 or something.
I was going to say 30, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you think if teams are returning at a fairly high clip,
then you're just going to start booting it?
Then you're just going to start booting it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you have a Devin Hester back there in this format, you're going to take the ball at the 35 every single time for that offense instead of giving them a chance.
Right.
So we'll definitely see that come into play for sure.
All right, off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I poked the bear, so it's my fault. But, the Bengal Bros are at me already here today. So that's fine. I started it, so I can't complain as far as that's concerned. But yes, Pouty Baby. We'll get to Pouty Baby coming up here in a little bit. I said I was going to play nice as long as he was back by today. And technically, I would have to wait till Monday.
Yeah, that's right.
Technically, I'm impatient. I'm impatient.
Who could have guessed? Everyone.
Yeah. I heard people were trying to guess my takes on certain things.
Yeah,
is that an Olympic sport right there? Is that
no,
an
in
Olympic
our lovely Discord, which if you're not in it, join it. It's a wonderful place.
I've been blocked from it. I don't know
all
why.
the time. Yeah, it's just an extended chat, 24/7 chat. So it's a phenomenal place. And the listeners were starting to take some guesses this morning about what you were going to talk about. And I don't want to give anything away from the show, but the guesses came out before you sent the list, and they hit the nail on the head. they got it pretty accurate.
Your soft team, so many injuries yesterday. Can you believe how soft they are? You know who I blame? Jamar Chase. That's who I blame. That's what all the Discord was about, apparently. Nailed it right off the bat.
That's pretty good.
No, we're going to talk a little Cincinnati Reds when we come back. I see a lot of people, and I know there's a good chunk of Reds fans who are big Elly De La Cruz supporters. I'm one of them. I'm here to defend Elly De La Cruz. There are a lot of fans. There are a lot of Reds fans who are out there who are ticked off at David Bell. They're ticked off at Elly De La Cruz because he's too aggressive. Is there such thing as too aggressive when you have a special player like Elly De La Cruz? We'll discuss more when we come back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, and we are back off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Jimmy, Casey, and Jacob with you here. And guys, guess who we get back on Monday? No, I'm here Monday. Reed's always welcome back, but no, we get Elliot back. We get Elliot back, right? Yes. He hasn't quit, right?
Well, we don't know. He still has a couple hours, a couple days, 48 hours or so.
He jumps in the chat every once in a while. He missed Jimmy's impersonation of him the other day. I was a little bummed about that. Has he seen it yet?
I'm sure.
I'm sure he has.
Is that why he hasn't talked to you?
We've talked a little bit.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
Set some boundaries.
Looking I'm looking forward to Elliot coming back on Monday. No doubt about it. Let's talk a little Cincinnati Reds baseball. Elly De La Cruz. I'm still trying to figure out, like, every time we watch a Reds game and Elly gets on base, something magical is going to happen. He is going to get a reaction from you in some capacity, whether it's a magnificent play that he makes, being aggressive, trying to steal a bag, or, yes, sometimes being a little too aggressive and getting thrown out. But Elly's the kind of player that you always have to take the good with the bad. And to get the good, you have to deal with the bad at times, because what makes Elly great is also what makes him vulnerable out on the base paths at times. There's no doubt about it. But people keep bringing up the situation in which he stole the other night, getting thrown out, trying to take third. And I get why people are ticked off and they're upset. And they're saying, hey, David Bell needs to be held accountable, that he's responsible for the aggressiveness on the base paths and the decisions that are made there. But I'm here to tell you that everything is not always the same as far as from season to season, logic to logic. I do think that the situation at hand here plays a role in why the Reds have given him such a green light. And it's not just because of how special he is. It's not just because of how fast he is on the base paths. I do think it's because of the fact that if you go look at the numbers, the highest the Reds, I believe, are ranked in any major offensive statistical category is like 16th. All right, in 16, but like they are one of the worst hitting teams in baseball. They do not produce a ton of runs. This is not a team that one of the worst hitting teams as far as total hits per game. I mean, this is not a team that is actively putting themselves in position to score a lot of runs. And when you look at that right there, your best chance at scoring runs is when Elly De La Cruz does get on base. When he gets on base, he is without a shadow of a doubt your best chance at putting runs up on the board. He is without a shadow of a doubt your best chance at having a runner advance and getting into scoring position. All right, it's one of the worst hitting teams in baseball. He gets, let's say he gets, draws the walk, gets to first. Who's going to advance him? He is. He has to advance himself. All right, now I'm not saying this is the worst offensive team in the history of baseball, but I do believe that when he gets on base, you have to just say, hey, green light at all times. If your instincts are telling you now's the time to, attempt to steal a bag, do it. Do it. I think because they are so poor offensively, you have to give them that green light and take the good with the bad at any time. Now, I will say again, if the situation's different, let's say that this is one of the better hitting teams in baseball. Let's say that they do have a lot of guys that are producing runs and that it doesn't all have to fall on the shoulders of Elly. Then I would be telling Elly, yes, be aggressive. We want you to continue to be, leading the league in steals, this, that, and the other. But also, you need to, situational awareness. I don't think there is such thing as situational awareness right now, because when he's on base, the only situational awareness I have is that he's their only chance at being able to produce runs on a consistent basis. If this was a good offensive team and you can count on other guys consistently enough, I would say, hey, let's stop killing momentum. Let's stop killing innings. Let's stop, putting an end to runs here because you're being too aggressive when you don't necessarily have to. I believe Elly has to be aggressive as he has been this year. I think he's always going to be aggressive, but I think that he is putting his foot on the gas a lot more intense than what he probably will moving forward if this lineup improves in years to come, and I think that it will. All I'm saying is I'm actually not going to blame Dave. I blame David Bell for a lot of the other base running blunders that we've seen from other players, but as far far as Elly, I almost put his blunders out on the base paths. I kind of put it in a separate category off to the side because I'm willing to take those mistakes. I'm willing to take those, mental errors on the base paths. I'm willing to accept those because of how special we know he can be. He is going to succeed on the base paths way more than he is not. I'm willing to take the good with the bad with the good, if you will, when it comes to Elly De La Cruz. As much as we want to blame David Bell for a lot, I blame David Bell for quite a lot, especially as this season has progressed. I do not blame him at all for any mistake that Elly De La Cruz makes out on those base paths because I believe that they have given him the full green light without hesitation because they need to be aggressive because he is their best chance at advancing runners, scoring runs, making something happen offensively. I really don't care what mistakes he makes, and that's rare for me to say that, but with him, I think the situation calls for it.
Yeah, no, you obviously don't want the first or third out at third. That's been a rule for baseball since it's been invented, and Elly's done that seemingly a lot this year. And I understand that people get mad about that, and they have every right to, but I feel like Elly has stolen with the proverbial red light a lot this year, and he's been safe a lot this year. And we've scored a lot of runs out of it, and he's been the most productive guy on the team because of that base stealing. He stole 15 bases in the month of July. Like, I don't know what else you really want from the guy to realize that you just have to be okay with him running. I have no problem with Elly running, no matter how many times he gets thrown out. He can run whenever he thinks he can be safe. That's really where I lie on him, and that's probably where I'm going to lie on him for the next decade or so.
Yeah, you guys know I'm not the biggest baseball expert. I don't know the quote-unquote X's and O's, when he should be stealing, when he shouldn't be stealing, all those intricacies. But out of all the players on this team, and we talked about this yesterday, he has he's the most urgent. He has the most urgency about him. He's the one that's trying to make a difference in the game. And I think you just got to let him do that, right? You got to let him be Elly. I think that's basically what we're naming this topic here, this subject here, this segment here. Let Elly be Elly. He's the only one that's going to be dynamic enough to make a difference on the field. If you take that away from him, then what do you have as an offense? You don't have a lot. You don't have a lot of urgency. At least Elly puts the pressure on teams. He at least adds some fire to this team when he does something great. So I say let him continue to make those mistakes if he needs to, but also let him steal bases and make wonderful plays. So I'm all about Elly being Elly, as much as I make fun of him going to Chattanooga.
Chattanooga's great, dude.
It is
Yeah,
a great place.
I mean, I totally agree. I think Elly has about a 350 on base percentage this year. He has 55 steals and 10 caught stealing, which is about an 85% success rate, which means 85% of the time that he's on base, he's going to be in scoring position, which I think is something that you hardly ever see across the MLB, and I think it's special. And once you get a team in the future who you can rely on to bring him home consistently, I think you're going to want him to steal every single time he's on the base path. So I have no problem with it. I think fans should have no problem with it, and I think, like Casey said, just let Elly be Elly and let him put you in a position to win.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is just why, like, offense as a team, the amount of opportunities that they get to score runs, it's not very good. So it's like when you have somebody that, and when you look at the amount of times they score when he is on base, like, he is your number one run generator. I mean, right now as a team, they're hitting, 230 as a team. That's 28th in baseball. At bats a game, all right, they're 30th in baseball. They get 32. I mean, like, we're talking plate appearances, they're 30th. Runs a game, they're 14th. Hits a game, they're 28th. I mean, these numbers as a team collectively, you are not getting many opportunities to even advance runners or get runners in scoring position. That is why I have no problem with him being as aggressive as he is. And when people say, well, David Bell, they need to teach him situational awareness, this, that, the other. I believe that they will when that time comes. But right now, and I mean, as many times as he's been aggressive, and when we're talking about the times he's stolen home, I mean, the amount of times that he steals any base, really, whatever we're talking here, the bottom line is I'm going to take his aggressiveness. I don't want to hold him back in any capacity when we're talking about how bad this team is offensively. And it's the plate appearances. They're 30th in baseball and play. They're not getting many opportunities because of how quickly they get, out. So I am fine with them being as aggressive as they are. If this team, Jacob, was a better offensive team, do you believe that he is being do you believe then that would increase the urgency in trying to fix some of these mistakes on the base paths?
Absolutely. I think if you have guys on the lineup that are hitting above 250, then you're not as worried about him stealing bases and getting outs or you're more worried about him stealing bases and getting outs because you can score in other ways. Realistically, with this Reds team right now, you're down 6-0 in the game we're talking about, and Elly's on second. I understand, 2 outs, you want to create a run or whatever. If Elly can get to third, then he gets to third. It's fine. Like, if it was a close game and we're playing well, and it's a different story than a season that I've already kind of chalked up to Elly numbers as the greatest thing we're rooting for. So I'm not really too worried about it. Elly is on the precipice of doubling up the rest of Reds hitters in Fangraph WAR. Doubling up the rest of the Reds hitters. That's insanity. He is so much better than everyone else on this team right now that he could do anything he wants out there, and I'm not going to sit here and criticize him.
One thing I tuned in for most of the show yesterday when I could, and I didn't realize. So the Reds have been above 500 every month except May.
Except for May.
They went out and
it's a 2-week stretch in May where you went 1-11.
Yeah, because I heard you, and because I remember a while back you and I talked. You said this team has ways to go, but then yesterday I heard you say that 1-11. You win probably 4 more games in that stretch. We're talking about we're 2 games out of the wild card. It's a much different vibe. Maybe they are aggressive at the. I mean that stretch has totally been what has impacted this season. I didn't even realize that they had been above 500 in every month except the month of May.
It's the exact opposite of the team we saw last year.
And that's pretty insane. That's pretty wild. And, when you said that this team's a lot closer than you think, even with all these deficiencies, that's what's wild. Even without McClain, Friedel's been in and out of the lineup. Obviously, the pitching staff's been banged up here and there. Get a guy back, you lose a guy, whatever. But that is pretty insane as far as that's concerned, about how close that they actually are. But you talk about that, Elly, if this team, that you could honestly talk about that 1-11 stretch, they win 4 or 5 more games in that stretch, I think Elly is seriously in the MVP conversation.
Certainly, if he's not already. I mean, he's 5th in NL MVP odds right now, I believe.
So he's technically in that, but I just mean I think we're hearing more of the chatter.
It would be much closer odds. I mean, as we get this deep into the season, you really see the top 2 or 3 separate. So as it continues to climb through that 5 to 10 range, it's not quite as exciting as it was earlier in the year. I'm pulling it up right now, but Shohei is a casual -1,000 to win the National League MVP.
And until we get Shohei fatigue, he's probably going to be taking those MVP. I think he'll win it this year, and then I think next year when he's allowed to pitch and hit too, he'll win it again, and then might start slowing, and then he'll start sucking again. Oh no, he'll just stop winning because we'll get fatigued with him with the MVP. So Elly will have a chance here in 2 years to win MVP.
we bought or sold it at the Memorial, and I'm still buying that he's going to win an MVP with the Reds. So I think that's something that's more likely than not to happen, and that within the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, I see some people saying, why are we beating? I don't think we're beating up on Elly. I think we're in response to those who are beating up on. I don't know if it's necessarily beating up on him. They're taking a part of his game and being very critical of it, which is how often the base running mistakes come about. But again, you look at the clip of the steal attempts. He's not just number 1 in steals, but the steal attempts is such a wide margin. The opportunities to be thrown at are significantly higher than the second best runner or the second best steals attempt player. So that's kind of where.
And of those 10 caught stealing, over half of them are pickoffs.
Bang bang, yeah.
So it's not even when he's legitimately, which obviously is an issue. I'm not dismissing him getting picked off as not being an issue. I'm just saying when he's legitimately running on the base paths, he very, very rarely gets caught. It's incredible.
RM on in the chat says, despite the winning records every month except May, Kenner just mentioned the offensive stats. No team is close when you're 28th in hitting. I mean, but that's the thing. They are close because Friedel, look how bad they are when Friedel's out. And then look how they take off when Friedel's in. They are close. It literally is the injuries. Everyone deals with injuries, and I'm not even making an excuse. But when we say they're close, they're close. Because if you don't have the suspension from Noelvi Marte and he gets off to a hotter start, he's good to go from the beginning, and obviously you have Matt McClain, that would be huge. They are a lot closer. That stat about May, I had no idea. Jimmy?
Yeah, I think them being close is definitely true, and especially with such bad hitting, I think it's good that they're not closer right now because it doesn't give the front office the ability to just say, look how close we were, let's run it back. I think it gives the front office a reason to buy during this offseason or buy right before next trade deadline. And obviously they still have guys that they have to bring back, but it doesn't allow the front office, who none of the fans like in the first place, to just be content with where they are right now. They know there's still room to grow. So I think in that sense, I think it's good.
Every complaint about Elly is funny right now because I see your response in there, Jake, and he hits a good number of pitches outside the zone. He swings at too many pitches outside the zone, but he hits a lot of pitches outside the zone. He gets caught stealing too much, but he steals more than anyone else in baseball, and he's the best at it. Like, that's the thing about Elly is his aggressiveness is what makes him great. And it's going to make him vulnerable at times to make mistakes like he does. But I will take those mistakes every time as long as you continue to get the output that we're still getting from him. But what is the cutoff line, though? Because I'm not saying that they're wrong, not saying you're wrong. Everyone's right, saying, well, he swings at too many pitches outside the zone. He gets caught stealing too much. Both things can be true, but I don't think that you get one without the other. I don't think you get him leading the league in steals if you don't have him being thrown out as much as he is because of the aggressiveness. He doesn't make contact on pitches outside the strike zone as often, if he's not being as aggressive as you'd like him to be. I take all of Elly's mistakes, and he's only, he just got to the 162 game marker about 2 months ago. Like, he's still such a young player. He's only going to continue to get better. I thought he was going to have a decline this year. There hasn't been a decline. He just continues to get better. I'll take Elly's mistakes every day of the week.
Yeah, I do this all the time, but I guess I'll do it again if we're going to talk about Elly's strikeouts and errors. So Elly leads the league in errors. Obviously not great. He cleans that up. He'd be the best defensive shortstop in baseball because while leading the league in errors, he's 11 outs above average, 5th best defensive shortstop in baseball. Elly leads the league in strikeouts. That's not great. You'd certainly love for him to get the bat on the ball more. He's getting on base at a 350 clip with an 836 OPS. He leads the league in steals, but he gets caught too much. He leads the league in caught stealing as well. Oh, that's great. He's 55 steals. Like, you can nitpick all you want, and that's fine, and we have to. I'm not saying you can't criticize players. Elly's incredible. He's only 22. I get all that. You have to be able to criticize players. And there's parts of Elly's game that you need to be able to criticize, and it's the strikeouts and the errors because it's an issue because it's capping how good he can be. But it's important when talking about those two things to recognize how good he is with those deficiencies in his game. When he cleans those two things up, if he ever became league average in errors, he would be the best defensive shortstop, maybe the best defensive player in baseball. He'll never be below league average, or he'll never be league average in strikeouts. That's part of his game, is that he chases and he swings at pitches and he whiffs. But he has great power. When he stops getting called on strikes that are outside the zone, he leads the league in strikes called outside the zone. When he stops with that, when people get used to his zone, when he gets more comfortable in the box, he just played his 162nd game. When he gets more comfortable, he's going to cut down on these things. He's going to become a more well-rounded player. It's the exact same thing that we've seen with Hunter Green over the last year or so. Everyone was complaining about his pitch count, complaining about how late he went into games, that he threw too many strikeouts, and he didn't get the ball on the bat enough to go later in games. Well, this year, what have we seen? He's going later in games than anyone on the staff. He's cut down on the strikeouts. He's getting the bat on the ball more, and he had a .33 ERA in the month of July. I think we're going to continue to see Elly improve. We've seen nothing but improvements so far, so I don't know why there's an expectation of anything different.
David Shaw in the chat says, in my opinion, it's not a discussion of whether or not he is or is not too aggressive. It's about being smart to know when and when not to be aggressive. I'd rather fail with someone being aggressive. And again, by the way, if we're talking about a guy that's 5 or 6 years into the league with these same things, more valid discussion. But
or if it's his first year and he's 25.
Yeah. So I'm fine with these. I'm not accepting mistakes, but understanding the context of how they're coming, I think matters as far as that's concerned. But all right, again, Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Jimmy, Casey, and Jacob with you here. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, and of course 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. All right, you guys want to talk about NFL?
There's nothing I would want to do more.
Awesome.
Yes.
Fire David Bell. We can fire David Bell?
No, sure. Let's just all agree to that.
All baseball for 2. No. Always plenty of baseball to talk about, of course. We'll see. The Reds take the series against the Cubs. Can they continue it? Can they continue their momentum as they start a new series here tonight? We know what they always do in game ones, right? Like we know that that's the case. But they start a series with the Giants at Great American Ballpark. And I know you guys talked about this last thing on the way out here when it comes to the Reds. It is such a weird thing to look at the teams in the wild card race. And I just mentioned all the struggles that the Reds have offensively, right? They're the only team that, of all the teams that are currently not in holding a wild card spot, they're the only team with a positive run differential. I know you guys touched on that a little yesterday, but everyone's in the red except the Reds. They're plus 35. It is the weirdest thing. They're poor offensively, but they're the only team in the wild card race that's currently not holding a wild card spot that has a positive run differential. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And we say their strength is their pitching. And like, they're just a weird team. They're just a weird team this year.
I think that run differential, to me, is a reflection of that pitching as well, because a lot of those losses are 1-0, 2-0. So a lot of people point to that and be like, well, maybe the offense isn't as bad as you think. Well, we like winning game 1 of the series 13-1 and then losing the next two 2-0, 2-1. So I think it kind of goes both ways there.
All right, the no more excuse team heading into the 2024 season. Which quarterbacks, which players, coaches, we're going to focus on quarterbacks, but we'll open it up to players outside the quarterback position. Which quarterbacks would you add to the no more excuse team? Which quarterbacks have to deliver? Which quarterbacks have to win in 2024? We'll, of course, go around and make our no more excuse all quarterbacks list when we come back. More Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, welcome back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. The no more excuse team, the all no more excuse team. Of course, we always do this. Which quarterback, which team, which coach, which organization is facing the most pressure heading in? There, you can categorize these however you would like to, but there are a lot of quarterbacks. There's a lot of players who we hype up, who we build up, who have been paid a lot, who have been talked about a lot. But at the end of the day, can you deliver? Can these quarterbacks go out and produce? Can they lead their team to what all teams are wanting to aspire to do, which is, again, contend for a Super Bowl, be a Super Bowl contender? And there are some quarterbacks you put in that championship or bust category. Or are there? Is it fair to do that? Is it fair to put any quarterback, is it fair to put any team or player in any sport in a championship or bust type of situation? Not just division championship, conference championship. We're talking about Super Bowl or bust, World Series or bust. Is it fair to do that in any sport? I mean, that opinion could be volleyed around a little bit. But as far as the quarterbacks heading into this upcoming season in the NFL, when you look at 5 quarterbacks who are facing the most pressure, if you want to call it that, but they have to deliver, no more excuse team. Can't use injuries as an excuse. Can't use bad front office as an excuse. You can no longer do that. We're going to add quarterbacks to our no more excuse all NFL team, if you will, heading into the 2024 season. And we'll go around and just kind of share, and I'm curious people's thoughts in the chat on this. But Jacob, we'll start with you. If you had to put a list of 5 quarterbacks who we're done giving them excuses. We're no longer saying he's good, but, I mean, he's faced a lot of injuries. Oh, he's good, but, man, his coaches, he hasn't had the best coaching staff. Yeah, but that's a bad organization he's been a part of. No more excuses. Take all the excuses off the board. Which quarterbacks have to deliver this upcoming season? Jacob, we'll start with you.
No more excuses. I think there's an easy answer for number 1, and I'm actually just going to take 5 quarterbacks for that number 1 slot. Every single one in the AFC North. Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson. None of them have any excuses anymore. We've seen Russell Wilson decline drastically over the last 2 years in Denver. He put up some decent numbers that first season, but he fell off the face of the earth last year, and now he's in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, apparently this incredible coach, Pittsburgh with these exciting young weapons, and he has Justin Fields biting at his heels right behind him, trying to get on the field. So I don't think either of those quarterbacks have any excuses. I think if Justin Fields gets in, it's probably his last shot to be an NFL starter. So he has to perform up to expectations. He has to execute. I think with the Bengals, it's very easy to see that Joe Burrow doesn't have any excuses. We've had the injury-prone debate in this office many, many times. If he gets hurt again, I think that just gets even louder. This is probably the last season that he's going to have Jamar and T. Higgins. You have a great third wide receiver in any of Charlie Jones, Yoshi Voss, or Jermaine Burton. You have Zach Moss and Chase Brown in the backfield and the best O-line you've ever had. I don't think Joe Burrow has any excuses. Lamar Jackson, the number 1 rushing offense we've ever seen in Baltimore last year, and you add Derrick Henry, who's probably the best running back of this generation. There's no excuses left in Baltimore. That defense returned almost everybody. They're going to be incredible again. And then obviously Cleveland. I don't want to punch down, but they've been at the bottom of this division forever until Joe Burrow gets hurt last year. And now you have Deshaun Watson, who's going to be healthy next year, presumably. And his contract is going to hit massive cap hits coming up soon in the next couple of years. He needs to win now. Amari Cooper is on a 1-year deal. Amari Cooper has over 70% of Deshaun Watson's passing yards as a Brown. The window for all 4 of these AFC North teams is closing, or at least getting smaller. And I think they all have to execute this year, and that starts and ends with the quarterback.
All right, again, are all no more excuse quarterback list. If you had to make up a list of your top 5 QBs who are no longer getting a pass this year, they don't, no matter what it is, doesn't matter if it's injuries, it doesn't matter if their whole O-line gets decimated, it doesn't matter if their top weapons go down, it doesn't matter if they have an embarrassment of a coach, it doesn't matter if they play for a bad organization. No more excuses. Which quarterbacks which quarterbacks face the most pressure that they have to deliver no matter what this upcoming season? Let's go to our guy Jimmy. Jimmy, if you had to make a list of the top 5 quarterbacks who do not longer get any excuses, who's that going to be?
So do you want just one or do you want all 5?
All 5. It's
All
Jimmy's
5?
list.
Okay.
Jimmy list.
Yeah, I think number 1 for me is probably Lamar. I think just because of how good he has been. He has 2 MVPs now. People always point to those. But at the end of the day, he doesn't perform well in the playoffs. And honestly, last year I thought was his best chance he's definitely ever had to win a Super Bowl. And he lost in the AFC Championship game because of what people said he couldn't do, because he didn't throw the ball well against the Chiefs. And that's kind of what people have been more so making fun of him for. But at the end of the day, that was part of the reason that they lost that game. I think this year he needs to be the leader of that Ravens offense and lead them to a Super Bowl. So he's definitely number 1.
Is there anyone on his list that you were like, you disagreed with, that you would add to it, take off?
Disagreed with? No, I think I agree with every single one. I think the AFC North is very tough because all those teams are very good. That's 4 very good rosters. I think I'd say there are less excuses for Russell Wilson than there are for Justin Fields.
For sure.
I think just because I think Russell Wilson is older. He's supposed to be the more experienced guy. He's won a Super Bowl before. So I don't necessarily think that he really has any excuses at all. I think this is kind of his last chance to kind of revive the Russell Wilson that we once saw in years past, the Super Bowl champion Russell Wilson. So I think Justin Fields has a little more leeway there. I think no excuses for Watson with everything around him. And then Burrow, I think, yeah, really, if Burrow gets hurt again this year, I think that's where I'm kind of going to start to think, okay, maybe he really is very injury prone. I think injury prone can get thrown around like Casey loves to throw it around.
I mean, he played 50 games straight, guys, or 40
I think,
games straight.
Why not 51?
I don't want to hold those injuries on him or really on anyone. But if he comes back and is the Joe Burrow that we know and love, I think you're not going to need any excuses. I think the excuses will come if he gets injured.
Yeah.
So hopefully he doesn't get injured. One quarterback that that we have on our little list here that I wanted to kind of throw out is Caleb Williams. I think the hype around Caleb Williams this year is deservedly very high. He's a great quarterback. He was great at USC, and he won a Heisman. So that's pretty much the best you can possibly do in college outside of winning a national championship. And I don't think any of his teams were set up enough for him to win a national championship. So I think he did really everything he could. I think with the Bears, they have absolutely amazing weapons. They probably the best weapons in the division, just with the names. They have Keenan Allen, who's a veteran, DJ Moore, who just signed a massive new contract, DeAndre Swift, who's proven to be a good running back to help him out. And I think being the number 1 pick and coming into the league in kind of with the team that he has around him, I don't want to hear he's a rookie. It's not like he's coming in the way Justin Fields came in with like Velus Jones and Khalil Herbert. He's coming in with NFL players around him on that offense who are proven, they're proven, they're great, and I think if he plays the way that we know he can play, the Bears will be very good.
Yeah.
But I don't want to give him excuses that, he's a rookie. You paid him $25 million up front to be your quarterback. So I think he should play worth $25 million.
Yeah, I don't think there's any excuses for Caleb Williams. People are going to say he's a rookie. This is the best situation we've ever seen for a number 1 draft pick by a wide margin. This team won 8 games last year. People act like the Bears are in such a bad spot organizationally. They won 8 games last year. They were 2 games away from making the playoffs in the NFC. And then you add to every position on the team. Obviously, Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze are going to be they're 2 and 3 probably behind DJ Moore, which is just an insane wide receiver room. You have an exciting rookie last year in Roshan Johnson. You have Khalil Herbert, who led the league in yards per carry 2 years ago. And you add DeAndre Swift, who's one of the best receiving backs in the league. After they got Montez Sweat on defense last year, they were a top 10 defense in the league. I think Caleb Williams is going to be a top 10, top 12 quarterback in the league this year. I don't think there's any excuses for him not to be. He's the best prospect we've seen since Andrew Luck, and I think he's going to play up to expectations and even outperform them. I expect him to be a top 8 or so fantasy quarterback. I think he's going to put up very gaudy numbers in that offense, and I don't expect anything less from him. And if we get less, I'll be incredibly disappointed.
And I'm not saying the Bears need to go out and win 12 games, but I do think the Bears need to finish with a winning record with the team that they have.
I mean, look, the Bears they don't
easy schedule.
But see, you're doing it, but you're not. You're saying, well, he doesn't need to go out and win 12 games. I think he does. That's a loaded team. It's a full team.
Yeah.
It's a full team. No, but you're not wrong in anything you're saying. What you're doing is you're pushing against yourself because, I think logic says you don't put all that pressure on a rookie quarterback traditionally, but with his arrogance and his approach to everything, he's putting it on himself. He's saying that he has those expectations, and I think that the Bears feel that way too. If the Bears, what they invested in, they don't do that if they don't think he can come in and do it.
And none of these guys are going to lose their jobs. That's not what this segment's about. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is going to get benched if he underperforms this year. I'm just saying
I don't want to hear excuses for him.
He does not have excuses for underperforming.
Right.
He has everything going for him. Every other rookie quarterback that was picked this year has an excuse that I can pick out, and if they underperform, I'm not going to be too upset about him long term. If Caleb Williams underperforms this year, my expectations for his career are going to take a massive hit.
Yeah. I think maybe I just view the Bears view a successful season for the Bears a little bit differently than you guys.
You just don't want them to win 12 games because look at your hat.
Obviously, no, I don't.
I understand.
I don't want them to win 12 games, but I think them winning 9 or 10 and pushing for a wild card spot is a successful season.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're good enough to win 9 or 10. They're good enough to not lose those games that they did. Yeah, I was just going to ask you where we're at time-wise. All right, we'll reset with this. I want to continue with this because there's some non-QBs that we could add to this list as well, and coaches even, if you will. But our no more excuse team, our all-NFL no more excuse team, no injuries, bad organization, it does not matter which quarterbacks, players, coaches, organizations, no more excuse team. We'll pick up with this more when we come back off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, we are back off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton, and of course Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Even if you don't like me, you like Jimmy, you like Casey, you like Jacob, you like Elliot when he gets back, you love Reed, all right, you love Trace, like you love Tom, you love Luke, you love the guys, you love them, so give the show a like. You can call me whatever name you want in the comment section. It does not bother me. Call me whatever you want. All I ask is the compromise, just at least like the show. Help us grow the show. The algorithm always loves when, all you listeners hit the like button. So just do that. Every person that likes it can write something mean about me in the comment section. That's the payoff. That's the trade-off. Is that fair? Give it a like, please. We really appreciate it. All right, our no more excuse all-NFL team. Okay, and now we did quarterbacks pretty much, and obviously you could expand this to players, coaches, organizations. But quarterbacks obviously deserve the brunt of this because they take up the most of the percentage of the salary cap when it comes to these teams. And I think sometimes you get situations where you have quarterbacks who are worth every single penny, and then you have guys who get the money that haven't proven it yet, but you're anticipating that they're going to get to that level. And I think that should be reflected on a list of quarterbacks whenever you're putting teams in positions or whenever you're evaluating these scenarios here. So my no more excuse all NFL quarterback list, if you will, and really these don't have to be in any particular order, but if you had to put it in particular order, the quarterback that gets no more excuses, the quarterback that no one will feel bad for if it doesn't work out, is the quarterback of the team that I like, and that's Deshaun Watson. I love the Cleveland Browns. I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of Deshaun Watson, but at the end of the day, he is the quarterback of the team that I pull for. Doesn't mean I'm a Deshaun Watson fan, but I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not a fan of a guy that can go out and help this team win. And when he's out there, this team wins. He's 5-2 last year when he was out there. All right, and his 2 biggest games of the season had come right when he started to get healthy and right when things started coming together. I mean, great performance against the Titans. They obliterated the Titans. It was their best offense and / defensive performance of the season. And then, of course, that dominating second half against Baltimore when he rushed for a touchdown, threw a touchdown, of course, a 2-point conversion, didn't miss a pass in the second half, just absolutely dominant. And then what happened? His best game against the Titans, misses a month because of injury. Best game against the Ravens, out for the rest of the season. The guy just can't stay healthy. So for me, there is no more excuse. The first quarterback in the history of the league, first player in the history of the league to get fully guaranteed money. I mean, at one point was the highest paid player in the NFL, most guaranteed money of any player ever in the history of the NFL. At the end of the day, he has to perform. The Cleveland Browns, they literally went all in around him. So if he doesn't perform well this year, the organization has to reevaluate everything. Everyone else on my list, I don't think any of these organizations are necessarily reevaluating their future. I think they're just starting to scratch their head and say, man, we got to, now we got to be a little concerned. The only team that is going into this season that has to get good production from their quarterback or it totally derails everything, it is the Cleveland Browns. There's no doubt about it. There will not be one excuse from me. Oh, well, his offensive 3 of his offensive linemen got injured and they're out. No, you're paid to go overcome that. I watched Joe Burrow overcome the worst offensive line in NFL history. He took him to a Super Bowl. No more. All right. Oh, well, they don't have the best weapon. They have very good weapons. They have very good wide receiving core. They have one of the best run games in football, one of the best offensive lines, one of the best defenses, 2-time coach of the year. I don't care if it's the Browns. He has everything he needs to be successful. There will be no excuses made for Deshaun Watson. I'm sitting here now. You want to jump in, Casey?
I've got a few if you want to hear just non-quarterback ones.
Well, hold on. We'll get to that. I thought you were jumping in on Deshaun real quick. No. I have a couple more of the quarterback list that you guys hadn't added to yours, quarterback-wise. I'm going to put Jordan Love on this list.
I like that.
Again, by putting these guys on this list, it is not as if we are saying if they don't live up to expectations that they are cut and that they will not be a part of the organization moving forward. But the Packers, everyone's giving them a lot. They're giving them their roses, saying, man, they just get it, right? Like, you have Brett Favre, you draft Aaron Rodgers, you let him sit for a few years. Didn't look great to start, but, man, look what he blossomed into, an all-time great quarterback. And they think that they've found the same thing with Jordan Love here. But, only 17 games he's started, and he has not looked great in the majority of those. He got hot in the second half of last year and took off. I don't dislike Jordan Love. I haven't seen enough. I don't trust Jordan Love. But you know what? They paid him, and they paid him a lot. So I think that there is no more excuse for him because he got paid. It's not like he's on a rookie contract where he has another year or two to go out there and show whether he has the mechanics, whether he has the ability to do it. They had to pay him. So now if he goes out there and he doesn't look the part, man, oh man, it's going to be a mess for him. The pressure will mount, and the Green Bay Packers will be in a very tough situation as far as that's concerned.
Sticking with quarterbacks that got paid, there's another one that I think you lost everything that you were going to have, and it's Trevor Lawrence. He lost Calvin Ridley last year, which was his number one weapon, but he got $55 million in the offseason. You can't have excuses anymore if you get paid like the best quarterback in the league. That's just simply how it goes. So now that Trevor has $55 million in his pocket, I don't care who his weapons are. I don't care if he rolls his ankle in prime time. You need to go out there and you need to win. You were 2 wins away from making the playoffs last year after an insane collapse that would have been talked about much, much more if it wasn't for who won your division in the Texans. That was a much bigger story. If it was anyone that was projected to be competitive before the season, everyone would have been talking about the Jaguars' collapse. So he needs to buckle up this year and play like the prospect we were told he was. I understand that he's been all right. He had a great comeback win against Justin Herbert and the Chargers in the playoffs, but he's hanging his hat on that. So I need to see more for Trevor Lawrence. You got paid like you're great. Go be great.
I like that you put every AFC North quarterback on that list earlier because we were talking before the show started. You can make an argument for every QB. All five QBs. There's only 4 teams in the division, but both quarterbacks on the Steelers have reached the point where there's no more excuses for them either. Not because I'm a hater, but I do have Joe Burrow on this list because you're assuming Burton's going to come in and be the replacement to T. Higgins. You're assuming that these great receivers that they're drafting out of college, that Joe Burrow is just going to turn into stars. Yeah, you got to see it. We don't know. Joe Burrow has had the most talent in the NFL at wide receiver since he arrived, but T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. I mean, it's not a coincidence that when all those pieces come together, everything exploded and took off. he's not struggling to find weapons to throw the football to. He's struggling to remain out on that football field, for the amount of time that he's been out there. I know the 50-plus straight games that he started, I completely get that, but 4 years in the league and 2 of the 4 seasons, you're out for the back half. That's a problem. Every camp, there seems to be something. Luckily, this has been a good, smooth camp. We're only a week in thus far, but it's been pretty smooth. But Joe Burrow's at the point now where, at the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, he's had an embarrassment of riches, but those weapons are starting to go away a little bit. That money's going to have to be distributed elsewhere, and you're going to have to rely on their ability to draft and develop this, that, and the other. He's not going to have more weapons moving forward than what he has right now. He has to capitalize. I think that it's a no more excuse season for him. They loaded up that offensive line. They improved the run game. You have Jamar Chase, maybe if he's done pouting. You have Jamar Chase. You went all in with T. Higgins with the tag. Burton should be a good, a great addition. They were able to get him in the 3rd round. He dropped. Otherwise, he would have probably been a 1st-round pick, right? So he has no excuse. He has everything he needs to be successful, and if not, you should be scratching your head as a Bengals fan at the end, not saying, is he our quarterback? He's your quarterback, but you are allowed to criticize your players from time to time. You're not going to have your fan card revoked by drooling over every single thing he does from time to time. I think you're number 5 in the league. If he's not hoisting up a Super Bowl trophy at the end of the year and is not at least, if he doesn't win an MVP or hoist up a Super Bowl trophy at the end of the year, I'd say it's a failure of a season for Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yep, 100% agree. I 100% agree, and that's why I put him first with the rest of the division. Another quarterback that has been paid in the past and had an incredibly bad end of the season this year or last year, Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts has no more excuses this year. You have A.J. Brown locked up. You have Devontae Smith locked up. You have Saquon Barkley in the backfield. You obviously lost Jason Kelsey, but you drafted Cam Jurgens in the 2nd round the year before. He's going to slide into that center role, and I think he's going to be pretty good. You have a great O-line. You have a great defense. The Eagles have no excuses. They started 10-1 last year and lost in the 1st round to Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. No hate to your guy Baker, but if you want to win a Super Bowl, you can't be losing to the Buccaneers. So the Eagles certainly have no excuses for me this year. This is one of the most talented rosters in the league, and I think everything with this team's shortcomings so far have fallen on Jalen Hurts. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and I'm not taking anything away from that incredible season he had. But last year, he was pretty bad, and that was after he was locked up long-term with a big contract, and he has great weapons. There is no excuse for Jalen Hurts to underperform this year.
All right, Casey, I know we've been saying, Casey,
You've
you're
been
not allowed.
rapid firing over here, guys.
You're not allowed to talk, Casey. In fact, I'm going to put him in the read category. Casey, get out. Get out. No, you have tried to get in, and we've been hogging the mic. We apologize. But no, I know you have some non-QBs, but is there a quarterback that we've missed? I've seen some interesting ones in the chat.
You guys missed like 3 of the top ones of national media. Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, and Brock Purdy. Those are the 3 biggest quarterbacks right now that have a lot of pressure mounting on them. If they don't get their jobs done, it's not looking good for any of those organizations or where they're at. Dak would probably have to leave the Cowboys for some other team. Aaron Rodgers would just look like a fool if he doesn't get something done. And Purdy, he would be a system quarterback if he doesn't get it done. So those are the 3 biggest ones that you guys didn't name. And then Tua, I don't know if we brought up Tua yet. We named a lot of quarterbacks here. So forgive me if I overlap some of those. But those are the biggest quarterbacks that I can think of. And then the teams I just named, I think they have the most pressure as just an organization as a whole. Like, you have a Super Bowl roster with the 49ers that could implode at any second if they don't get it done this year. Philadelphia just lost their center. They're all pro center, Hall of Fame center that does all the calls and whatnot, protections and whatnot. So now you're really putting pressure on Hurts to get it done. You bring in Saquon Barkley. It's kind of like their all-in moment, right, to try to take over the NFC East. And the Cowboys are in the same spot too with their roster construction. All 3 of those teams, I feel like, need to make a better push to try to win a Super Bowl. It's kind of hard to do when you're facing Mahomes every time. But those 3 right now, I think, have the most pressure. And then the Jets, too. They've got a roster issue right now, too, with players just flat out, after being traded, don't want to play for them. That's just wild to me.
Does Jamar Chase want to play for the Bengals?
Nope. That's a good question.
I'm just saying, we've been like, who says they don't want to play for the Jets? They just want pay. How come when players hold out with the Bengals, it's just all cool, common.
That was a crazy spin zone.
But when other players do it, it's they don't want to play for their team. They want to play for their team. They just want paid.
Right.
Not mostly. I can't remember the guy's name.
Hassan Reddick?
Yeah, Hassan Reddick. I mean, he was traded to the team with a contract already in hand, like
No, it's an expiring deal.
a 1 year deal.
Right, so he obviously wants an extension. That's why he demanded a trade from the Eagles, is because they wouldn't extend it.
Oh, well.
There's
Still, I mean, like, why? That still proves my point about the organization being a complete mess.
So are the Bengals a complete mess?
No, because they still have 2 years on Jamar Chase's deal. They didn't make a mistake by not paying the guy that's got an expiring contract.
How is it a mistake for the Jets?
Because they haven't paid a guy that's on an expiring contract. What are you talking about?
I do not think it's a mistake to have a guy hold out.
They wouldn't trade for a guy telling him, like, yeah, we'll pay you.
They didn't tell him they were going to pay him.
Then
NFL players can't decline trades.
Yeah, they can.
Not if you don't have a no trade clause, which I guarantee you Hassan Reddick didn't.
Casey, here's how you win this one. Say the Jets made a bad trade because the whole reason they traded him is because he wouldn't agree to a deal with he didn't find what the Eagles were offering him to be fair. So the Jets should have known what they were getting into.
That's my point.
So that's what I'm saying. I know where you're coming from, and I agree with you on that. I think it was a bad trade on the side of the Jets, knowing that he wanted a contract. He didn't want to play for them, who was just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He didn't want to play for them, with 1 year left on the deal, unless he was going to get a long-term extension. So why trade for a guy that wants to get a long-term extension, unless it was the arrogance of the Jets saying, well, we got Aaron Rodgers, and we're New York. You'll want to play for us on 1 year. No, he's doing the same thing with the Jets that he was doing with the Eagles. They should have done their homework. So from that perspective, that's how you should have approached it with that. But maybe you were.
I like taking a flyer on a guy that gets a lot of sacks like Hassan Reddick. They traded a 4th-round pick that can become a 2nd-round pick if he plays. So you're not really giving.
So even if he does it, you're saying
if he doesn't play,
okay,
if
fair.
he doesn't, you're taking a gamble on a guy that's going to get a change of scenery and want to play. I would still guess that he's not holding out into the season.
Flip-flop. I'm flip-flopping all over today. Good point. Good points by the both of you. I like it. Jimmy has a point. Jimmy, what you got?
I was just thinking of one more quarterback who's more a quarterback that we don't really think is very good, but gets paid like he's really good, and that's Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones, after this season, I believe the Giants have an out on his contract where they can buy him out. It's a massive he got a massive contract extension. Where
God, that was bad.
This year he's making $47 million. I think if he doesn't perform well, I think it's probably no more excuses. I think he's gone.
Well, I think he could win a Super Bowl and they'd cut him. $40 million over the next 2 years, you can get out with no money attached to your salary cap. Obviously, winning a Super Bowl is a stretch, but if he does what he did 2 years ago when they extended him, I still think they cut him. Yeah, he needs to make a crazy run and prove he's the quarterback of the future. Otherwise,
by the way, do you guys have is there a Funny Bone around here?
A Funny Bone,
like there's the comedy club. The Funny Bone Comedy Club. I think there's one around here. I see Everett in here. I don't know if he's a comedian, but I really will pay to send him to the Dayton Funny Bone or somewhere for him to go on stage and actually try to make an excuse as to why Patrick Mahomes is on this list. Patrick Mahomes is a back-to-back Super Bowl champion. He's won MVPs. I have no clue what he has to prove. I don't think he's on this. I don't even think he should be sniffing this list. I have no clue why you're hating on Patrick Mahomes. I know you guys are Bengals fans. You may not like Patrick Mahomes, but I appreciate the fact that nobody except Everett has tried to add Patrick Mahomes to this list. What can we say about Patrick Mahomes? Casey, can you think of an excuse to add Patrick Mahomes to this list?
Well, I mean, he won a lot of games with a great kicker, I guess. I don't know. We'll bring the whole NFL kicker discussion in this whole conversation. But, no, I don't think there's any reason why he would be on this. I don't think Everett was the one who said it. At least he's not claiming he's the one who said it. It might have been someone else in the chat. But regardless, whoever said Mahomes, I mean, that's a wild take. Wild take.
I'll still pay for him to go to the Funny Bone. I'm just saying. I don't put Aaron Rodgers there. I don't know why.
I don't either.
I think the guy's just – what else does he have to prove? There's a lot of these guys that have to –
40. He's won 4 MVPs in a Super Bowl. I think he's proved everything he needs to prove.
Like some of these guys, like Trevor Lawrence is trying to prove that he's an elite guy based on how he's paid, like with Tua.
If Aaron Rodgers goes 0-17 this year and finishes last in the AFC East, he's still a first-ballot Hall of Fame quarterback.
We're basing it based off of career, not like – expectations.
Basing it on expectations for this year, and I don't think there's pressure on Aaron Rodgers to be great because he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time, regardless of how this year goes. If LeBron James has a terrible year next year in the NBA, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you're basing it off of players or entire careers. That's not what I was doing. I was doing it based off of like what your expectation is, and it's to like win the big dance because you don't have a lot of time to do so. Like you have like 1 or 2 more good years left in you already to like win another one.
But what does Aaron Rodgers have to prove?
Well, it's more the team. What do the Jets have to prove?
Well, I think the Jets have to prove a lot, but I didn't put Aaron Rodgers on the list. I would put the Jets on a team list.
That's what I did.
So Everett, it was Everett. He says if Mahomes has a rough year, like last year in certain points, people will point as his wide receivers and tight end.
And then he'll probably just win the Super Bowl.
And he'll probably just win the Super Bowl. Look, when you look, I mean, over the years, Josh Allen has had Stephon Diggs. Now, you're going to sit here and say, well, he's had the tight end. That's fine. He's had a tight end. But, I mean, again, quarterback, you can't sit there and say that quarterback doesn't need wide receivers if he has an elite tight end. Well, maybe you can't because of Patrick Mahomes. But the bottom line is, can you sit there and say Joe Burrow with Kelsey, with no wide receivers, can go do what Patrick Mahomes did? I can't say that. Josh Allen, all these elite quarterbacks have had a mass amount of weapons to work with. I mean, even if you just look at the tight end for Patrick Mahomes, that still doesn't equal T. Higgins. It doesn't equal Tyler Boyd. It doesn't equal Jamar Chase. It doesn't equal Stephon Diggs and the weapons that Josh Allen has had over there. Look, I'm not a big Patrick Mahomes guy, but I'm not going to sit here and discredit anything that dude has been able to accomplish, because just like Joe Burrow was able to overcome that bad offensive line to lead his team to a Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes has overcome stuff like that as well. And as an organization, they've had to lose guys on the defensive side of the ball, but they've drafted really well and developed really well. It's all a team-encompassed thing. It's not just always down to the one player, but what they have lacked, he's been able to overcome. He was paid to lead that offense. You know, when you're the one of the highest-paid quarterbacks in the league, you are paid to elevate guys around you. All right, that's why this idea that the Bengals have to bow down to Jamar Chase, because they need Jamar. You want Jamar Chase. If Joe Burrow's who you say, you don't need Jamar Chase. You want Jamar Chase. You know, you don't need T. Higgins. You want T. Higgins. Like, I'm just saying, like, this idea that when you're paid that much money, if I give you Burton, you better go win with Burton. All right? That's kind of the reality of it. So that's why I defend Patrick Mahomes to that certain extent. Plus, his wife's annoying as hell, and he's able to block that out and still go out there and perform well. Just saying.
Fun Patrick Mahomes nugget while we're on the
topic.
Mahomes? Patrick Mahomes.
Oh,
singular.
Plural.
Just one Patrick. Fun Patrick Mahomes nugget. Since he entered the league, he's had 53 interceptions called back by defensive penalty. Number 2 is Josh Allen at 18.
Wow.
So, Mahomes has been great. Maybe he's getting a little nudge from his friends in the NFL office.
Oh, the old zebras, huh?
No, maybe.
You know?
They did get 5 downs in an AFC Championship game, and that doesn't get talked about a whole lot.
He's all right, again, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Quickly, non-quarterbacks, coaches. I'm going to put Mike Tomlin there. Mike Tomlin has no more excuses. I'm tired of the boring, stupid, he's never had a losing season. I don't care. You may not have had a losing season as far as win totals is concerned, but what have you won since that Super Bowl many, many moons ago? I'm not discrediting the Super Bowl. A lot of coaches in our own division haven't won a Super Bowl. I'm just saying, everything in sports, everything in life is what have you done for me lately? Why is Mike Tomlin the one excused from that? I'll put Mike Tomlin on this list. No more excuses. You have all these weapons on defense. They went out and got you not one but 2 quarterbacks. You have no more excuses. Mike Tomlin has to at least get to an AFC Championship game, or at least has to win a playoff game. At the very least, I'll bring the bar down. I'll dumb it down for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's just give them the same expectation that bad organizations in the past, like the Bengals, not necessarily now. In the past, a good season for the Bengals would have been just win a playoff game and we'll be happy. Well, that's the low standard that the Pittsburgh Steelers are officially at now. So if they don't at least win a playoff game this year, it's a failure of a season for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. So I'll put Mike Tomlin on the list.
I'm done giving him credit for 8-9. At what point are we done giving him credit for, or I guess 9-8?
9-8.
Never
Yeah,
never
8-9.
I'm done giving him credit for 9-8. I mean, that's cute. That's fun. It's not going to cut it in the new AFC with all these great quarterbacks. So, yeah, I think Tomlin's pretty high on that list. Another quarterback or another coach that I think is high on that list is Mike McCarthy. I think Mike McCarthy is on his way out in Dallas if he can't turn that around in postseason performance.
Yeah, because it does come down to the postseason. He's 3 straight seasons, if 11 games or more, 3 straight 11-win seasons, I believe is what it is. Getting him to the playoffs, but it's it's like that Dusty Baker thing with the Reds. It was like great to get him there, but you kind of got to do something when you get there. This is like the Marvin Lewis. It's great that you're getting the Bengals there, but what do you do when you get there? Things evolve, expectations evolve. It can't always just be as simple as, well, get us to the playoffs, that's all that matters. Eventually, once your expectation is to be a playoff team, you got to expect to do things in the playoffs too. So who would you add that's a non-quarterback, Jimmy and Casey?
For me, I'm adding Sirianni after last year kind of imploding with the Eagles roster that he had. He's already on the hot seat, so that's a big one for me. And then on the other side, I think we already know how I feel about the Jets. Robert Saleh is the big name I think that people will look at if they don't get something done this year.
Well, I was going to say Robert Saleh, but I will take it a little different direction. I'll go with a position player, and I'll take Stephon Diggs. I think Stephon Diggs is obviously, we all know Stephon Diggs has had a great career. He was great in Minnesota. He was great in Buffalo. But I think there's a lot of pressure on him to really bring this Texans offense to the next level now that they have this elite wide receiver in Stephon Diggs. And I think I don't even necessarily think that the Texans need him, but I think that if he doesn't perform the way that we've seen Stephon Diggs perform in the past, I think that, I think there's really no more excuses for a lot of the. I feel like we've kind of heard some antics about Stephon Diggs outside of his play on the field, and I think if he brings that into the Texans locker room, I think people kind of forget that the Texans, or that could hurt the Texans.
Yeah, because right now with Stephon Diggs, was it a Buffalo Bills problem, or is it a Stephon Diggs problem? If he goes to Houston and elevates Houston even more than what they were last year, it's going to look bad on Buffalo. But if he goes there and all of a sudden he's kind of a problem to work with C.J. Stroud, all of a sudden everyone's going to look at Josh Allen and say, man, now we see what you were dealing with as far as that's concerned. Last one on the way out, one that I think honestly makes a lot more sense than most of them that we've talked about, not burying your guy, but I think your head coach probably needs to be that. For the Lions have been a feel-good story for a couple years now. I think they've come out of that feel-good story heading into this year, because now last year was the expectations, but can they rise to it? They did. So now it's like, now you got to prove, like, he's a risk taker, he's aggressive, this, that, the other. But I do think that Dan Campbell is going to be one of those names that you look at and say, I think could be one of those where no more excuses. You have to at least get to the NFC Championship. You at least got to get somewhere. You can't just compete for the division or wild card and get to the playoffs and get bounced. I think they need to make some noise. They made noise last year. I just think they need to prove that it wasn't just a one-hit wonder type of season.
Yeah, Reed talked about it yesterday. I don't remember if it was on the show or after the show, but he said when the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl the next year, all everyone talked about is the impending decline and how quickly the Bengals are going to fall off and they'll never get back. With the Lions making the NFC Championship and losing last year, it seems like everyone is just sort of penciling them in to either that or the Super Bowl already this year. There seems to be no talk about a decline, at least from national media. You're kind of just assuming that they're going to be just as good next year, which is fine. I think the Lions are going to be a good team, but I'm very interested to see what the reaction is nationally if they do start slow. I wonder if people care at all.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And again, everyone loves the feel-good story until they get bored with you. I mean, people want to look at the Lions and say, typical Lions, right? People wanted to do that with the Bengals. People, people can't wait to do it. When the Browns start to have a little success, they can't wait. Like last year, great story. You guys, I don't want to bury him. Browns were one of the best stories in football last year with Joe Flacco, but the way they went out in the playoffs, what did everyone do? Not great year by the Browns. It was typical Browns. I knew they were frauds. So, nonetheless. All right, Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. We'll step away for a few moments. Jamar Chase, how many days into camp are we? We started last Thursday, right?
Right.
So last Thursday, camp began, and we had Jay Morrison on last Friday. And I asked Jay, I was like, so how long do you think this is going to take to get resolved? Will you be shocked if by next Friday he hasn't stepped foot out on that field? And here we are. It's Friday. We don't know if he's stepped foot out on that field or not, but it doesn't sound like he's going to. I mean, why not unless they get a deal done this morning? This has gone on for quite some time, so we're going to talk about how long into camp does he have to sit before you as Bengals fans start to get a little antsy. We'll talk about that coming up around the corner, plus a little buy or sell. And I know Casey has some ads to attend to. So we'll get to all of that coming up, more Off the Bench next.
Commercial, the new one.
Is it the duck?
I think it's going to be the duck.
All right. We were just talking about the new Big Ten commercial that just came out. Is that right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
If you want to send that to me, I can maybe show that.
I'd love to.
For the rest of the people so they can see it on this one off radio segment. But, this is the time for the ads. So let me get to them real quick. Let's start with Encore. The Bengals Reds Report is proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies. At Encore Technologies, we deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world. From mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions, we help businesses enhance efficiency and
Productivity.
that's right. Visit encore.tech, where your path to innovation begins. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water that I can't go without. Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. It uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. And you can tell because the ingredients right there just say water. So you know it's a good water, healthy water. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNI water.com so you can buy this great tasting water. Really, really good for you. Hydrates you like no other water can. And let me tell you about the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time and download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And speaking of those low prices guaranteed, Luke Combs today at 5:45. Tickets are as low as $24 right now.
Woo!
Woo! Creed at Riverbend, $88. I mean, that's crazy. Giants at Reds tonight, $8 tickets. If you're wanting to go to that game, probably should leave like very, very early because of the Luke Combs concert. I'm sure everyone's going to be flocking to it. If I just look at these Luke Combs prices, like you can get on the field $89.
Really, for Luke Combs? Because, like, man, sitting up high about a month ago, $150 was like the cheapest ticket you could find. So those are really good deals. That's not us just blowing smoke. Like that, those are legit, really good deals right now.
I think the weather's playing a bit of a factor there.
Damn it, Jimmy! That's not the point. What is wrong with you?
Now
we
not
can't
supposed to say that.
But it's still a good deal regardless. It's not gonna
Just
What's
bring
not?
a raincoat.
I ain't gonna go
bring
spend
your
$50.
raincoats. Bring your raincoats. Don't worry. Bring a towel with you in the car so you can dry off. It'll be fine.
Jacob told me that Luke Combs doesn't go until about 9 o'clock, and the rain will be over by 9 o'clock. So
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Jacob got nervous. Like, hold up, what are you throwing me under the bus
I just
for?
heard my name
You
and
just
realized
said,
I had to pay
he set
attention,
up,
yeah.
Well, Casey's over here. The Game Time at these tickets are really cheap. You can't get them this cheap anywhere else. And Jimmy goes,
Oh,
yeah,
no,
well,
no.
he
See,
goes,
the
yeah, well,
difference
the
between me
rain.
and you is I can hear while I'm looking at the chat. I understood what they were talking about.
You can't do two things at
No,
once?
I can.
I can't.
I know.
My ADD, but it's wild because I have ADD. You think I can listen to like a lot of different things at once? But look up if I wanted to go check out WWE SummerSlam tomorrow in Cleveland. What would that cost me?
Did you see what I sent you?
Oh,
on
the all
Twitter
jersey. I might have to
yesterday?
go get one.
Did you see what I sent you on Twitter
Yeah,
yesterday?
that's what I was
You
like.
need that. SummerSlam's in Cleveland, and they did all their jerseys for. They did a Cavs jersey, a Browns jersey, and a Guardians jersey with SummerSlam.
really,
Yeah, and I sent him the Browns one. You need to get the Browns SummerSlam jersey.
I just want to go see Pat
That'd
McAfee.
be cool.
So
Oh,
you
that's
can
pretty
get
cool.
in for as low as, I think it says $35 here.
There you go.
But you can get on the field, Kenner, for $190.
190.
There's some seats here that are $190.
The floor seats. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And those tickets have gone down as well. Getting closer. Jimmy, is there a reason why lightning, tornadoes? What we got? Why are the tickets so cheap over? What's the? But yeah, so a lot of really good deals on that app. I about texted you yesterday. I couldn't remember what it was, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'd already downloaded it. We were good to go.
Oh, nice.
We were good to go. What else we got, Casey?
Just some other housekeeping items. If you haven't done so already, and I know Kenner mentioned it earlier in the show on the radio, please drop a like. Share this show with a friend. It helps us grow. It helps us reach out to new viewers so that we can grow this community and get more people like you in the chat. We really appreciate it if you would hit the like button. We have memberships. We're going to do, I believe, box lunch. Well, you're leaving, Jacob, afterwards. I got to talk to Reed. If not, we'll do a game.
I can box.
You can do box?
I can box.
Okay. We can do box for a little bit. We'll do Quiplash.
Do I get to box somebody?
Kenner.
Is Kenner sticking around?
Yeah.
Kenner?
I have to stretch
Boxing?
first. But someone said yesterday I had that old man strength. 34 became old in here very quickly. So,
Well,
man, thanks, guys.
It's your fault you host a show with two 22-year-old co-hosts.
Yep. So, where's Elly? He'll raise the average age limit in here a little bit. So there you go. But anyway,
Surprised you kicked Reed off, the only other 30-year-old.
That's why.
Yeah.
Don't do that to Reed.
I love doing that to Reed.
Poor Reed.
He did that to himself. I made sure to go the day before this thing started. I said, hey, we good, right? I had nothing to do with it. Yeah, but, he said, F you, get out my face. Reed, typical
Yeah, typical
psychopath.
Reed.
Typical psychopath, yeah.
Game day once, Kinner versus Jacob versus Mouse Cop. 3-way death match.
Will Mouse Cop actually
ring.
appear, or does he
I
just
don't
hide
know.
behind an alias on
Yeah,
YouTube?
well, he does certainly have a mask on.
It'll be a cage match, right?
Yeah, it would have to be.
Yeah.
Maybe Money in the Bank.
Ooh.
There you go. I've been working out lately.
I have
could do
not.
it. I could do it.
I've been playing a lot of video games. I get home and my gym time is after work because there's no way I'm getting up early like Casey does. Casey's a demon. But yeah, I'm not working out before work. But I get home from work now and it's just straight to the old dynasty. There's no gym for me.
Yeah. Here recently, before we go back to the radio, because I want to talk about this just for a quick second. Me and Jacob have been making our own dynasty teams,
Yeah.
right? I made NKU and I made the sickest jerseys. He made a great dynasty, great jerseys. I'm not gonna say what the team name is.
You're making it sound worse than it is.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad. But I don't want to embarrass him unless he doesn't care. But yeah, that team builder function,
Incredible.
incredible, so much fun,
The customization is insane.
insane. I still want to try to do something with you guys with college football. I just don't know what will work. We already know that it's not cross-platform, so that really just puts a damper on things. Maybe we'll do like an Xbox League and a PlayStation League and just let that be as it may and not stream anything, not do anything crazy. Just let me know in the Discord what you guys want. But anyways, that being said, Kenner, you want to go back to the radio?
Yeah, Blackmore said I hated the chat. I've never once said I hated the chat. The thing that's wild is, like, I've never said anything mean to anyone first. I go when I start combing through. My sports opinion gets people to say mean things about me, and then when I respond, I'm the bad guy. I mean, my gosh, the Bengal Bros, they have absolutely perfected the gaslighting approach to all of this. How am I the bad guy when I just respond to the mean things that you guys say about me all over a sports opinion? That's what's wild. I don't hate anybody. I'm a very loving person. I really am. I'm a great human
Aw,
being.
Kinner the victim, first chat.
Yeah, how's that for gaslighting? Everyone feels sorry for me. So, anyways. But yeah, we can get back.
Back to Radio Land.
Back to radio. I hate Blackmore. All right, welcome back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner. We got Jimmy, Casey, and Jacob with you here on this Friday, coming at you live, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. And then, of course, you'll be listening 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. So I hope everyone has some fun plans this weekend. I know there's a lot going on. The Reds games this weekend are at home. You got 2 nights of Luke Combs. If you're a wrestling fan, you got SummerSlam over in Cleveland. There's a lot going on. I have a couple all my friends that can't golf with them this weekend because they all got their members, nerds. I can't go out and golf with them or whatever. I golfed real well the other day.
Nice.
I'm itching to get back out on the course. I can't find anyone to golf with. I have no friends. Or real ones, apparently. Great personality like mine. You're probably thinking, how does he not have more friends? I know. Me and
Well, you have the whole chat.
Blackmore. Yeah, I think we're gonna go. We're gonna go golf a little bit later.
Is
There you go.
SummerSlam this weekend?
What?
It's this weekend?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Cool.
Tomorrow. All right. So last week, Jamar Chase. What's that?
Sorry, I was just trying to mouth. Are we doing a touch and go?
Touch and
Before-
go. Oh, does it need to be that short?
Well,
Yeah, we were like 15 minutes over.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you my take on this, and we'll go to break, and I'll let you guys react to it on the other side. How about that? That fair? So last week we had Bengals beat reporter Jay Morrison on Pro Football Network, and I didn't think everyone excited about camp officially getting underway, and I'm like, well, Bengals camp is going to be kind of boring. Because I thought all their offseason drama was kind of squashed. I thought that the Hendrickson thing was squashed. I thought that the T. Higgins thing was squashed. I mean, the news there, everyone was shocked that he had signed that tender a month early. Like, I mean, not just a month early, but like way early, because everyone thought that would have kind of bled into camp. But it's one of those things where Everyone just squashed that very quickly. No one got their way. The Bengals got their way. T. Higgins didn't get his way. It's kind of hard to look at a guy that's getting $21.5 million guaranteed as not getting his way, but he didn't get his way as far as getting that extension done or getting traded. Same thing with Trey Hendrickson. Although last year, of course, he agreed to this deal, but again, you looked at how dominant he was last year. He still feels his pay is not a true reflection of his value and what he brings to the table, but they squashed it. They got it out of the way. And they both reported to camp. I know, obviously, Hendrickson's been a little beat up. Completely get that. But T's been out there. T's been a great teammate, been a great, presence out on that field. I thought they squashed all this. And Joe Burrow, and I thought it was great news, too, right before the season. The Bengals come out and, didn't just address the injury, but basically put it behind him, saying he's 100% cleared and healthy and ready to go. Everyone was super excited. And then Jamar Chase, all of a sudden, made it a little noisy. Now, he's not saying anything, so how is he making it noisy? It's not what he's saying or not saying. It's just the fact that he's there, but he's not there. He's out there, but he's not participating. It's a hold-in. Everyone loves a good hold-in. Back in 2022, I believe, is when you first started hearing like Debo and guys like that start to do these hold-ins because the collective bargaining agreement changed to where a lot of players were basically just not showing up to camp at all, and then they were being fined daily. And then what would happen is when they got the extension, basically the team would agree to waive the fines, and then everyone would go home happy. Well, teams didn't like that. So they basically got rid of that as far as that's concerned. So now no one really holds out because now you are no longer allowed to. If a player holds out and then those collective fines that start to pile up, teams can no longer waive those. So what do players do? They show up. So I'm not going to give Jamar Chase credit for showing up and being a good teammate. He doesn't really have a choice. If he doesn't show up to camp and he doesn't participate, all right, it's not even about participating. If he doesn't show up to the actual camp, he's going to get fined, and he will not get that money back, even if he gets the extension. So he is at camp because of money. He's also holding in because of money. Now, I'm never going to knock a dude because of money, because I do believe, especially as I've gotten older and I've had to deal with contract negotiations, this, that, and the other, I've learned a lot about how that's concerned, and sometimes you have to be very, very selfish. But I have also acknowledged when I have had to be very, very selfish to my coworkers and to my teammates when certain things have come about during that process. I've had to go to coworkers, I've had to go to co-hosts and say, hey, I know things are rolling right now, but I'm going to be off for the next couple weeks until we get this figured out. Now, that's not good because we had live appearances coming up. And guess what? My co-host had to lose hundreds and hundreds of dollars per appearance because of my selfishness. But I had no problem admitting that, hey, I'm being kind of selfish here. I know that, I'm putting myself first. I'm actually costing my co-host money because we're canceling these live appearances because I need to get my money. I've been there. I know how this goes. I'm not comparing myself to Jamar Chase, but this is the same in negotiations with any industry and with any business. But I get tired of, when it comes to sports, we try to baby these professional millionaire athletes and act like it's not selfish, but it's exactly what it is, selfish. Every individual that has ever strong-armed a company for themselves is a selfish move. And I don't know why we act like that's a bad thing. I have no problem with Jamar Chase being selfish. I'm just not going to call him a good teammate. I think he's being very selfish right now. 2 years ahead of schedule doing this. I have a problem with that. If this was a year from now and he has missed all these practices thus far, wouldn't hear a peep out of me. Like, he should be paid heading into next camp, no doubt about it. But he's doing it a year early. That's what has everybody talking. And what everyone's really interested in is the fact that Mike Brown doesn't blink. We point blank asked Jay Morrison, hey, this is a staring contest. Who blinks first? Does Jamar Chase blink and just say, all right, fine, I'll show up? Or does Mike Brown blink? Well, if he ever wakes up, Mike Brown all of a sudden doesn't blink. He will not blink in this particular situation. So we know that. So why is Jamar Chase doing this at the expense of helping his teams prepare for this upcoming season? To T. Higgins' credit, wasn't selfish. He demanded the trade, but he did it during a time that wasn't impacting the team. Camp's coming up, fine, I'll show up. Sign the tender, whatever. Not happy with it, but he put the team first. He was one of the bigger stories of the first couple days of camp because of his explanation for everything. He knows that their Super Bowl opportunity is a big one right now, and he wants to be a part of that. He wants to contribute towards it. He doesn't want to work against it. He put the team first. Trey Hendrickson, nothing's changed. He hasn't been paid more. He's paid the exact amount saying that pissed him off to begin with back in the offseason when he demanded the trade that caught everybody by surprise. But guess what? He even said in his press conference, yeah, I just want to win. I want to win a Super Bowl. I want to be a part of that. I want to be a reason we win and not be a reason why we get off to a slow start and potentially, ruin that. I think they're not helping being good teammates in this situation because Jamar looks bad, in my opinion, for this. I don't know why fans can't just say, yeah, Jamar, I love you. I'm a big Jamar Chase fan. I think you're being selfish. And I think, without a shadow of a doubt, Jamar Chase is being extremely selfish in this particular situation. I think that although if they lose in any of the first 4 games, that you can't say it's Jamar Chase's fault, but if they get out to a slow offensive start like we've seen in recent years, I am going to look back and say, well, maybe if they had continuity from the very beginning, they'd be off to a much better start. The bottom line is, doing this a year early, I have a huge problem with. I think it's selfish. I do believe he is hurting his team by missing already the first week of this. Don't say that a week doesn't matter. If a week, and by the way, for a wide receiver, it doesn't matter. Him and Joey B, man, they know each other. He zigs when he zags. They know they finish each other's sentences. They finish each other's sandwiches, this, that, the other. Stop it. If that's the case, then all wide receivers just show up week 1. Oh, no, that's crazy. You need to be out there preparing with your quarterback. Oh, but I thought it doesn't matter. Jamar Chase, though, it doesn't matter for him. How? It doesn't make any sense. You're not making any sense if you think that. So we'll step away for a few moments. Jacob, Casey, Jimmy will tell me I'm wrong. You guys, I'm not even going to read the chat. But at the end of the day, I don't care what anyone says. It is selfish of Jamar Chase at this point. It doesn't make any sense to do this a year ahead. I mean, it makes sense for him, technically, but at the expense of the team, I don't know, man. I think that's weird, and I think it's okay for fans to be a little pissed off. I do think it's fair for fans to say, come on, dude, what are you doing? What are we doing here? Like a year ahead of schedule? I could support you a year from now in this. It makes sense. I'm not going to support you 2 years in advance. Doesn't make any sense to me. Jamar Chase is selfish, in my opinion, if he doesn't report to camp at least by the end of today. We'll be right back. More Off the Bench next. All right, and we are back off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. And in typical Bengal Bro fashion, names are being called. No one is responding with anything intelligent or saying anything like, you know what? I could see it from, well, because there's nothing intelligent about just calling someone names because they say something that you disagree with. Why don't you counter with why you don't think it's selfish of Jamar Chase? So if anyone with a brain can respond with, here's why I don't think it's selfish, other than just calling me a name because I said something you agree with, I will gladly listen to your opinion. So anyone, call me a name. You want to call me a name? Call me a name.
I love calling you names.
Yeah, call me names. But Jamar Chase on this, I think it's okay to say he's selfish, but it's okay. I'm just curious people's thoughts on this.
I reserve my name calling of you for really bad takes, and I don't think this one's very bad. I think it's selfish of Jamar Chase to hold out with 2 years left on his contract. I don't think that's crazy to say. I think you can say it's selfish and also not be mad at him because you realize what's happening. Mike Brown said they weren't going to negotiate with him anymore this offseason, and then Jamar Chase holds out. Do you think that could be because he wants to negotiate this offseason? Probably. Probably wants to get that ball rolling a little bit, whether you get a contract done or not. It's going to be easier for him to play this season if he has at least the framework of that set up in his mind where he can, relax and just play football. So if Jamar's focused on a contract, hold out. I don't need him practicing out there at 50%, trying to protect himself every play while he's worried about a contract, blah, 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 and whatever else. I think he's being selfish. I don't think that's crazy to say. I think it's a little bit crazy to have a different take than that he's selfish. How is it not selfish? It would clearly benefit the team for him to be out there practicing, and he's not for personal reasons.
I have the opposite take just because of Jamar Chase's injury history. I don't know if you guys remember, he injured his hip. I don't know if you remember the play. I think it was versus the Panthers or the Falcons from New Orleans or whatever. He jammed his hip, and if it was any worse, it was a potentially career-threatening injury.
It wasn't.
It was because
no, it wasn't worse.
Yeah, but it wasn't worse.
But it could have been, is what I'm getting at. Like it could have easily been much worse, and then we're sitting here today without a Jamar Chase. So I don't blame him because he's almost had a career-threatening injury already in his career. Now, the likelihood of that happening again is.
He had an injury that maybe could have possibly been career-threatening.
Well, then that's why you want to be safe and get a contract. You don't want to be.
You don't want to career. I don't think injuries are at play in this whatsoever. He's missed 5 games in 3 years. 17, 12, 16.
I get that, but that's basically like any player will tell you that they don't want to go back out there for whatever amount of money because of a couple different reasons. One, guarantees, because injury and potentially losing out on your career. That's the biggest one. Like that I think that's like the main reason why Jamar is not practicing, because he wants that deal. He wants that security. That's like the only reason why players would even hold out. I get it. Like, I don't think that's super selfish on his part. I mean, he's already had, like I said, he almost had a career-threatening injury. I don't think that's like super far-fetched to say that that's the reason why he's sitting out today.
I do think that's incredibly far-fetched.
And far-fetched, yes, but he'll say that's the case.
Oh, sure.
When
Jamar sits in front of the camera the first time, he's going to say it's injury.
They'll be dramatic and say, man, my career could end tomorrow, and I would have missed out on the opportunity. Look, Jay Morrison last Friday when he was on with us specifically said, even if he had a season-ending injury, do you think that's going to make his value less next offseason? Like Jamar Chase, Jamar Chase is one of the best wide receivers in football. If, let's just say, it's an ACL, whatever, something happens to him in camp or week 1, week 4, do you think that his value is going to be any less next offseason when it's time to sign him? No. Now, people are acting as if I'm just taking one side and one side only and saying that the Bengals are in the right. The Bengals aren't in the right, but we know how the Bengals do business. So at the end of the day, you're not hurting the Bengals. You're hurting your teammates, which theoretically goes back to hurting the Bengals. Both things could be true at the same time. I don't think, I'm not defending the Bengals. All right, and here's where I'll rip the Bengals. Let's be clear. One thing that Jamar Chase, he's technically, no one should be surprised by this. Right? Jimmy, what has he been saying for the last year and a half? I can't wait for Justin Jefferson to get paid to reset the market for me. Mm-hmm. All right? Well, why wouldn't he talk about the receivers that are due to get paid next offseason? He was letting the Bengals know, technically, this is where I'll defend Jamar to a kind of a certain extent. He was technically letting everyone know, once Justin Jefferson gets paid, I want paid. Well, guess who got paid? Justin Jefferson. And guess who's sitting there confused, like, what does he want paid now? The Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth. Sometimes there are two sides to both stories. I think that the Bengals are wrong for not already having a deal ready, because it's smart business to pay him now, because what happens if a year from now the market goes up? Now they're going to end up paying way more money. It doesn't make any good business sense to wait. But at the same time, knowing that they're not going to get it done, it's bad on Jamar's part, because he's only hurting his teammates at this point, because at the end of the day, as Jay Morrison said last week, Mike Brown doesn't blink. Jimmy, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really hold it against him. I think, like you said, he's been letting people know that he wants to get this deal done. He wants to stay here, and so many receivers across the league have gotten these massive deals, and like he should, he holds himself to a standard as one of the best wide receivers in the league. I don't blame him. Do I think it's annoying that it's taking this long to get the contract negotiations going with the Bengals, or getting them to a point where he feels like he can step back out on the field? Yes, and I understand people being upset about that, but I don't really think Jamar's doing anything wrong.
No, I don't think so
right
either.
now. I think, sure, if you get to right before the season, he hasn't practiced at all. Okay, maybe he held out.
Why doesn't T. Higgins just say, I'm just going to hang out over here for a little bit then?
Well, he couldn't have.
No, but like we're acting like it's not a bit. He could still just show up. He could do exactly what Jamar's done. I'm going to show up. I'm not going to participate.
I think once you sign the tag, you have to participate.
You don't have to participate.
Well, you'd be fined.
Yeah.
And you would cut into your tag money.
But no. That's what I said earlier. So the reason they changed it used to be you get the deal done, they'll just wash the fees. But now you have to at least show up. You don't have to participate. You just have to show up.
I think it's different for the tag than an actual contract.
Fair.
I believe.
Then that's on me. If that's the case, then that's on me either way. But still.
Because he can't even come into the building until he signs the tag.
But he's worried about getting hurt. He's the one that's always hurt, Casey. He's the one. He should be the one, crying and being selfish like Jamar.
Let me be very clear. Like, I don't think like Jamar has an injury-prone issue, but he can't predict when injuries happen to him. Like,
being worried
it could have been like that. You take that previous injury history where he almost had a career-threatening injury, and you just say it could happen at any point. So that's why I'm sitting out, because I don't want that to happen again during preseason. Like, I don't see how that's super far-fetched. But again, like I also think he's such a good player. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, he's gonna be out there week 1 and be fine. Like,
but what if they don't get a deal done? Mike Brown doesn't blink.
He'll be out there without a deal.
He'll be out there.
Then why go through all this and risk getting off to a slow start? I guess that's my question.
I don't think he cares about a slow start.
Yeah, I mean, they play the Patriots, and then I get they play the Chiefs, but then they play the Giants and the Commanders. Like, that's...
I don't think that
I don't
matters at all. I don't think who they play matters whatsoever. I don't think Jamar Chase cares about starting slow. I think that's the thing. I don't think Jamar Chase cares about having good team chemistry going into week 1.
Because he's selfish.
Because he's selfish. Jamar Chase is being selfish, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's the right move for him.
By the way, Reed said, I'm going to find a clip of Mike Brown blinking. Either way, look, at the end of the day, can I promise you that it'll have an impact on the start to the season? No. But this is also a team that, can you afford to risk it? Now, again, we've talked about how tight this division is, how tough this division is. To sit there and act like games in September don't matter, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely insanely ridiculous to gamble that. I don't really care if we get off to a slow start. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. But with as tight as the AFC North is going to be, as tight as the AFC is going to be, to take that gamble when T. Higgins said, you know what, I'm going to put my issue off to the side and sign it early so I'm not a distraction. When same thing with obviously Hendrickson. And by the way, your hypocritical Bengal Bro fan base, everyone ripped Trey Hendrickson. Everyone went in on Trey Hendrickson. No, doesn't he know he has a contract? Well, doesn't Jamar Chase know he has a contract? Well, Trey Hendrickson, couldn't he be concerned about getting hurt and capitalizing? By the way, if anyone should be pissed off more than the other, it should be Trey Hendrickson because he is a little bit older. He had a career year last year. He should want paid now, even though he had the contract for the year before, because if he does get hurt, he will not capitalize on that great year last year. Jamar Chase can get hurt this year, and he will get paid just as much next offseason, to me. And Jay Morrison even said it. Y'all like him at least, as far as that's concerned. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying that it's not Jamar's turn. It was CeeDee's turn. It's Justin Jefferson's turn. That class before, you extend after 4 years. Saw someone ask in the chat, what receivers have ever been extended after 3 years? There's 4 wide receivers in Jamar's draft class that have already been extended. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, and Rashad Bateman have already been extended. 3 of those 4 getting massive deals that put him in the top 5 or 6 or so of receiver contracts. So to act like it's crazy for Jamar to expect a contract extension with 2 years left on his deal is crazy in and of itself. This is a very normal time for a receiver to get extended, and it makes sense that he's a little bit upset about not getting the deal done. He's seen receivers that have not played up to the same level as him since he came into the league that have gotten paid what he expects to get paid, and he still hasn't really seemingly made up any ground in negotiations with the front office. So I think it's more than reasonable for him to be upset. Do I want him practicing? Absolutely. Don't get this wrong. I'm not sitting here thrilled that Jamar Chase is holding out. I want him out there. I want him practicing. The team will be better for it. But I also don't really care because I understand what's going on.
Is it – let me spin this a little bit. Is it selfish of Mike Brown to completely shut negotiations down as soon as preseason starts?
Yes. Why aren't you guys bashing him?
I like that.
I think that's kind of selfish because that makes it to where the players are now just forced to wait at the end of the year when they probably could get a deal done. So then that puts it back in Jamar's court. So that's why he's looking bad.
So you want teams to negotiate contracts during the season?
I don't think it. What does that do for the team? Like, I don't think that puts any. That's not a distraction to me.
I think it's a massive distraction.
If Jamar Chase is out there playing and they're negotiating, I don't think it's a distraction at all.
Yeah, I think it's a massive distraction. One of the biggest distractions you can possibly have. That's why good organizations don't negotiate contracts during the season.
If I'm negotiating a contract with Chase right now, and I'm doing my job, none of you would ever know. None of you would even
do you think they're negotiating now?
No, but let me just clarify. If you practice and then you go out in the game, you play. It is not a distraction.
I think it's one of the biggest distractions you could possibly have on a player is negotiating a contract during the season. That's why you see
on a player, but not the team.
I don't care. I'm talking about a distraction for Jamar Chase.
It's a distraction right now for him.
It's the offseason. Who cares? No one. It doesn't matter if he's not practicing right now. If you're negotiating a contract during the season, that's a massive distraction for the player. Massive. You're focusing on negotiations.
Focusing on the bag rather than you play on the field.
We're acting like Jamar Chase is the one also sitting at the table. No, it's his agent.
You don't think every time Jamar's agent leaves the facility, he's not calling Jamar?
Yeah, but it's not like he's sitting there putting hours of time investing into it. He's just telling his agent I want this and this.
I think negotiating a contract for a player that's going to be paid the highest of anyone at his position is going to take hours and hours of time from the player. Yes.
If you were negotiating contract extension with Trace, would you be more focused on producing the show or getting the bag?
Well, like I said, you would never know because I'm doing my job. That's the whole point, is like he's practicing, going to games.
I've held out of mine before. I've held out of mine before. I've been out for 2 weeks until I got what I wanted. But I admitted that earlier. But I went to my co-host at the time and said, hey, like we had like paid remotes, we had live appearances, and I cost my co-host a lot of money because in those 2 weeks we had to cancel all of our appearances. But I said, I know I'm being selfish, but I'm not doing one more thing for this company until I get what I want.
And so,
I admitted it was selfish.
So if Trace said that we're no longer negotiating, I would sit out and not be on the show, and then you guys would know, and it would be a big distraction.
I would rip you so bad.
Exactly. That's my point. It's like I don't like.
If Jamar Chase is holding out for the regular season, then you're negotiating a contract. If he's going to play, you do not negotiate a contract.
Well, that's what I guess the point is. That's what Kenner's point is. How do we not know he's gonna?
Well, you
not
see
sit
when the
out
ball
past
gets kicked off in week 1.
Exactly my point, though. Like we don't know, but if he decides to do that, then it's a massive mistake on Mike Brown's part for not having the negotiation table open.
You don't think they're negotiating right now?
I mean, he said it's not the time and place for it.
That was pre-holdout.
Well, maybe it's working. Then.
If you don't think they're negotiating right now, we are on very different sides of how this is going. I think they're negotiating every single day.
But I think they knew he was.
nonstop.
But Jacob, I think they knew he was going to sit out because they had that BS excuse of it's part of the plan already worked out before.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
how long before day 1 of camp. Like how I wonder the
I think
timeline.
day 1 of camp.
But like
is when
they just
knew.
found out that day.
I think so.
But like I wonder
Because
how
I think
that
you'd
works.
have a better answer if you didn't.
Like I wonder how that works. Like you think like coach is showing up thinking everyone's going to come out of the locker room. Like wait, why is Jamar in street clothes? Why is he not like? Did he just know then? Because it sounded like they had a PR excuse already lined up before then, unless they lined it up in the middle of practice. All this stuff fascinates me. That's why I see a couple people saying this is a non-story. Can we stop? I hate when people say things that it's a story. It is a story. Does it mean that if they don't get it done, that the chances of them winning a Super Bowl is 0%? No, it's still a story. Like, is what it is. But, maybe he shows up today and all of this, we can't clip anything from this, so be it. Is what it is. But that wraps it up for us on the radio side. Appreciate everyone tuning in Dayton. Have a great weekend. This has been Off the Bench on 1410 ESPN Radio. Nothing burger. All right. Nothing. I mean, how is it not a? I guess I don't understand how you could say it's a nothing burger. That this story is nothing. It's something.
This story is leading basically every ESPN show right now.
Now, if he signs it,
nothing
if he signs it, and I'm bringing this up in week 2, you have permission. Bury me.
If that
all
pen
right?
touches paper, or if he even goes out to the practice field without an extension, and we still talk about this week-long holdout, that is when you can get mad. That is when it's a nothing burger, and we shouldn't be talking about it. And we're talking about something that doesn't need to be.
But I
talked
might.
about. When
Remember
he's
he was
not.
selfish?
Oh, you're definitely going to.
I won't though.
You're
Because
definitely
it
going
won't be
to.
a story at that time though.
Right.
Like, that's the thing.
No, I agree.
But if they get off to a slow start, and by the way, that is the key. And I truly believe if the Bengals get out to a slow start because Jamar Chase, then that means T's not very good. That means Burton's not very good. That means the other guy. I don't think Jamar Chase not being there at camp right now is going to impact the defense, the offensive line, T. Higgins or Burton or anyone else. If the Bengals get out to a slow start, it will not be because of this. But guess what the perception is going to be? It's because of this. It will be. At the end of the day, it'll be that the Bengals had, some issues in the locker room because of this. They weren't all locked, another season of distractions in the preseason. It will be a story whether you think it is or not, whether we agree with it or not. There will be that narrative if the Bengals get off to a slow start. Now, as Casey and we all talked about, that schedule, they should not get off to a slow start. Right? They are better than the teams, or should be better than the teams that they have on deck, to start the season. But if they do start out slow, he will be blamed. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. I also think that the team. I know that the team has said that they care to start faster, like they need to be faster, or get off to a better start. But they've also said too that it's more important that they are all cohesive at the end of the season too. That's when it really matters, which I agree with. So in one respect, yes, it's important, but for the team, it's probably not the biggest priority to start fast. I know I don't know how to explain this without it being so contradictory, but they find it more important to be more cohesive at the end of the season, and Jamar will be there at the end of the season.
But that's not the point, Casey, with how tight the AFC is. if the Bengals could be playing their best football heading into the final couple weeks of the season. But if it comes down to one game to get that final wild card spot, that one game to win that division, and they lose the division, and God knows how sensitive you guys get about home field advantage. My God, don't have it come down to a coin flip again. My goodness. No, but like to say that those slow starts have not, I mean, they would have had home field advantage 2 years ago if they get off to a hotter start. They would have made the playoffs last year had they got off to a hotter start.
They would have had home field advantage 2 years ago if they would have played 17 games as well.
Yeah,
well, but you know what? Not in their control. What was in their control was September.
That's fair.
That's my takeaway there. You're right. By the way, at the end of the day, did not agree with how they were kind of stabbed in the back with that ruling. But while everyone was focused on that, that's why we missed it. I'm like, how about that month of September that Bengals fans always tell me doesn't matter? I think it kind of mattered then. I think it mattered. He won 9 games last year. That's a playoff team if you win one of those games in September last year. Like that's why. Like so that's why I do not buy into the September meaning nothing as far as that's concerned. But I get your point. You want to be playing you're looking at it as long as we're playing great at the end of the year, you're just assuming you're a playoff team. But again, even just being a playoff team, you can count on them playing their best football, rolling in, and great. But then what happens if you don't have that home field advantage or you just miss it by a game? September will be to blame if that's the case.
I mean, the other thing, too, about this whole thing is, like, we're acting like Jamar is not going to get paid top dollar. Like, we already know what his contract should be, theoretically, right? Do you agree with that?
In what sense?
35, 36.
Like,
Are you talking about annual value or like structure?
Yeah, just annual value.
Annual value. If anyone thinks annual value is what's holding up this negotiation, then they're not really paying attention.
It's fully guaranteed.
It's guarantees, it's structure, it's backloaded versus front loaded. Jamar Chase is going to get 35.2 to 36.5, somewhere in there.
Right, but like
it's where it all lies.
So the Bengals already know how much they're gonna give him. It's literally just the structure part of it that is like that to me seems like, I don't know. It just feels like they should already be giving him, if they already know what Justin Jefferson got, they should just copy and paste it and just give it to him.
That I agree with.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's basically.
Well, I don't think he'd take that.
But at the end of the day, like whatever he wants, just give it to him. What are we doing?
Like he's already going to be the top paid receiver.
I have
anyways,
the same
right?
take with this as I had with Burrow last offseason.
Like.
You invite him into the office, you hand him a piece of paper, and you say, what's the number that you sign right now? And whatever he puts down, you write on a check.
Right.
Like, I don't care.
And
he's not asking for $40 million, unless he is. And it's a different story. But I don't think he is. I think the maximum he's asking for is, what, 37?
Maybe.
Max?
Maybe. But that's kind of my point, is like we already know what that looks like, right? Like it's very easy to see, and Mike Brown has already said he had bent over backwards to sign it. Then just do it.
Also,
why are we letting him sit out and make this become a big distraction?
No
to
team
me, I'm looking at Mike Brown. I'm not looking at Jamar Chase.
But is it bad business of Mike Brown to be a little skeptical of saying, have the highest paid quarterback and wide receiver on the same payroll? That's kind of wild too. Like, I don't think that gets talked about enough. And that's not a Bengals, they're cheap take. That's for the richest owner in football take. Like, that's still not it's not something you should be excited about diving into the deep end with. Let's just I don't care how good Joe and Jamar are, to act like that's not going to have ramifications on the back end. And I don't care how confident you are about your team to sit there and say that do you truly believe that they are great at drafting and developing to overcompensate for that? Like, there's concerns in that front office saying, if we do this, we have to be perfect in the draft. We have to be perfect in developing. Let's not act like that's not playing a role in why they're like, I think they're going to do it. They're willing to do it, but I think they're terrified to do it. Joe Burrow was a no-brainer. I don't think this Jamar Chase contract is as much of a no-brainer as what everyone is trying to make it out to be. That's not me hating. They're going to get it done, but I think they didn't feel anything in their stomach getting Joe Burrow to sign it. The Jamar Chase one could be one that everyone looks back at and says, oh, damn, maybe that wasn't the smartest decision in the world, no matter how much you love the connection between the two.
Well, then the whole thing with T. Higgins is just like, it would be nuts, crazy if they lost both T and Jamar, in my opinion. Like, they need to keep one or the other to at least, like, if they were actually debating this, which I know they're not, they're going to try to keep Jamar at all costs. So it's almost pointless for me to even go this far. But if they were to say, 35 is too expensive, we're going to try to give you 30, and Jamar says no, then, like you said, you'd have to be perfect in the draft, which I feel like they've done what they can. Like, they've done the best that they can to be able to say that they've.
You don't think they
like,
regret
covered.
not bringing Bates back? They brought Bell back. They admitted they made mistakes there.
I think they regretted not signing Bates.
This is
personally
you're
think.
igniting age-old Chatterbox debate.
Oh, my bad.
With all of us.
I'm not trying to go all angry into the
No.
weekend. So, but no.
I mean,
like,
this is one of the OGs.
Yeah, this one. For me, I'm just not in the business of getting rid of great talent, right? And I knew he was a great talent, and it ended up biting him in the butt. I mean, hindsight's 2020, or it's revisionist history. I get that part of it.
But Casey, the story wasn't them moving on from Bates; it's that they didn't replace him. They
didn't efficiently.
That to me is the story.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
they
the
didn't.
concern.
They didn't efficiently replace him.
Yeah.
They tried to replace him with low-end talent that wasn't very successful in a previous team. I kind of get where you're coming from. Like, they didn't.
Not hating. I'm just like, those are the things I think about with the Browns. I don't know how the hell they're not the best drafting team either. They've spent a lot of money up front, but the Browns will have to blow this up, and that's why they're going all in this year. They will be in hell in the next year or two with all of this. So it's not like I'm like saying your team's dumb, my team knows it all. But my team's had an advantage getting contracts like this done because they've had the money up front. Your team's at a disadvantage because they don't have that money up front, which is why they had to do the pay core thing and all that to get that money in escrow to get Burrow's deal done. But I'm like, how much money do you have up front? Because you still have to, I mean, 55 a year, 35 a year is not that far off. I mean, to act like they have that up front with a good chunk of that being guaranteed. So there's a lot of layers to this. It's not just as simple as sign here, but it should be. If you say we're going to bend over backwards to get it done, I mean, you must have pulled your back on the way down then, because I don't understand. I don't believe that they're actually doing that at this point, if that's the case.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think too, like, they are not making the same mistake. I used to have this take before the draft. Now I don't. They are not making the same mistake with T. Higgins as they did with Jesse Bates, because I think they efficiently and appropriately tried to fill in that need with drafting Jermaine Burton. They've developed Yoshi. He's looked really good in camp. Charlie Jones looks really good in camp. Like, they've done enough there to where if they were to go deep in with Chase, if you're looking at the pie, if Jamar Chase is the guy that gets all the cash, like, they have a bunch of rookies that kind of help supplement that role now.
But you hope, because last year I was told how great Dax was. And I like his makeup. I think he can develop into something pretty good. But I was told last year, look how good Dax looked. Look how good all these – and they weren't. They did not look that. So, like, but they had good preseasons. So, like, I'm hearing Burton's good. I'm hearing that, like, you want them to be good, but they have to be good. Because you keep talking about T. It's Boyd and T. It's Boyd and T that you're trying to replace the production of, as far as I'm concerned.
The thing, though, with Dax was that we knew that he was a slot corner coming out of college, too. Like, those guys aren't playing out of position either. Like, they are receivers. Like, they are slot, outside receivers. Like, they will be able to fill in those roles where we didn't know for sure if Dax would be able to fill in for Bates. You know, I know we had a lot of good things come out of camp, but there was always that thing in the back of your mind, like, we went out and signed another guy to also try to fill in that role too. I don't know. It just feels like we've done it differently this time around with multiple different guys that can fill in that role, whereas with Bates and with Bell, we went and got one guy to try to replace those roles, and they didn't work out. So I think it's a little different. I don't know if you feel the same way, Jacob. Like, we've hit T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd's roles with multiple different guys at different levels of the draft, whereas with Bates and Bell, we went and got one guy to replace each of those.
I'm very, very okay with how we replaced the safety position.
Well, now.
Me too.
Well, no. Drafting Dax Hill and letting both go. I'm very, very fine with how we went about doing that.
So you're okay with Nick Scott?
Yes.
Why'd you bring Bell back?
Signing a Super Bowl champion safety and a rookie to be your two safeties is fine. Did it work out? No. They both were terrible. That stinks. I think the process was very good to getting to that roster.
Oh, so that's where we'll agree. Moving on from these guys is like, I agree with. Moving on from T, makes all the sense in the world. Moving on from Tyler Boyd made sense. Moving on from Mixon made sense. That's not where the holdup is here. You signed Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow to these deals, which they already have and they're about to. The process You can go. That's the right mindset, the right process, but you have to hit.
That's what I like to
The
grade.
Chiefs have hit.
Yeah.
Like the Bengals have to hit. Their margin for error is going to be so slim. If you get this Jamar Chase deal done, the margin for error is so slim that even if you're making the right decisions, and I'll agree with you on. They made the right decision doing that, moving on from guys and going with Dax and guys like that. That I agree with you on, but it didn't work out yet. It has to work. These things have to work out for the Bengals to remain a Super Bowl contender once guys are getting paid.
If T walks next season after his contract, if Jermaine Burton's not a wide receiver 2 or not even a wide receiver 3, maybe Andre Yoshevas doesn't progress at the rate we expect. Charlie Jones, we kind of just see the same thing we saw last year. I'm not going to all of a sudden be mad about the Bengals letting T walk because I think they've done a good job of putting young talent behind him that you expect to progress into that role. And I think they did the same thing with the safety position. I just really, really hope it works out this time.
I don't think they did the same thing with the safety position. And mainly it's just because of how they tried to address it with just one pick for Bates or Bell, however you want to look at it, however Dak's role was. And then you went and got one guy in Nick Scott that had mild success with the Rams. It wasn't like they went and got multiple guys to try to fill in that role.
You spend more capital on the safety position than the wide receiver position in this scenario.
Well, for this scenario, it's because you're trying to fill in a top 3 player at that position, whereas T is like a top 25.
But you wanted them. I didn't want them to fill a top 3 player with a top 3 player. I didn't want that.
Hang on, time out. I'm not trying to replace Jesse Bates with like a Minkah Fitzpatrick. I'm just trying to throw at more chances for you to fail because that position was so vital for you in the past, being that he was a top 3 player. I'm not saying they should have honestly, what I would have done is not draft Dax Hill. I would have drafted something more valuable and then spent 2 picks in the draft at safety at lower values. That's what I would have done.
Yeah, I still think any
because
anti-Dax Hill.
you get more chances to be wrong at a position that you know is a huge hole.
I think anti-Dax Hill at 31 is because he's been bad the last 3 years. Dax Hill was a projected top 15 pick who played everywhere on a Michigan defense.
Don't disagree with that, but the plan for him
was to play safety, and he was supposed to be very good at it.
He was a slot corner. They should have seen that. And
everyone in the world projected him to be a starting safety the minute he went into the league.
But guys, listen. At the end of the day, Angel Reese stinks.
That's right.
And that's how we close things out. Do we chat rankings?
Yeah, I have chat rankings.
Chat rankings. Jimmy, send us into the weekend. I'm not going to rate the Bengal Bros, okay? Because I haven't worked out my negative point, rankings here. So I'm going to let you take care of this. Rate the chat, Jimmy.
All right, cool. I'm going to do this pretty quickly. Number 10, like to throw this on there every time. The rest of you guys who aren't in the
how
top 9
political
here.
Of you.
I mean, this is so lib. Just participation awards for everybody.
I love everyone.
Oh, Jimmy Left Wing at it again.
Oh, okay. Very well played.
Number 9, he's been in the chat a couple times this week. E-Train 513.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was good talking to him this week. It sounds like he was telling us about his cool vacation that he was on and putting some valuable points in the chat. So it was good talking to him. Congrats, E-Train.
You wasted 4 picks already on the first 2. Just saying. Shout out to Elliot. He's
doing his top 10, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh.
So.
Number 8, Colin Will. He's on a month. Today is his official month since he became a member.
Oh.
So,
shout out to
very
Colin.
nice.
Shout out Colin.
Shout out Colin.
Jimmy, I got a great book for you after the show.
Okay, thanks. Number 7, Everett Henry. I don't think there's been an argument in the chat that Everett Henry has not been a part of this past week. So shout out Everett.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes stinks. Am I right, Everett?
Number 6, Nate Seltzer. I've enjoyed my times hanging out with Nate Seltzer, so he's always going to be on the list, and he comes in at number 6. Number 5, Mike Ackley. I think Mike just left the chat.
Legend of the game.
A couple minutes ago. What?
Still a legend of the game.
Oh yeah, still a legend of the game. Great hanging out with him at the game this week, and shout out Mike. Number 4, also at the game this week, who is a great talking to is Cincy B. Cincy B, he's not as argumentative as some of the other guys on this list, but shout out Cincy B. Number 3, I think number 3 knew that he was going to be high on the list because he kept talking about how excited he was for it, and it's Game Day 513. Jacob and I both had a very good time.
Yeah.
Talking to him at the Reds game this week.
I owe Game Day an official 999. Really
Yeah.
giving it my all.
Yeah, did he ask you to go to the Banks after and you faded him?
No.
Oh.
No. I was never asked. I wouldn't have anyway. It was very late and I was tired. But, yeah, Game Day and I wanted to do 999 together, but we couldn't get it done because of the hot dog line. So we're going to have to run it back at some point.
Number 2, I like Bacon. Bacon's coming in number 2 this week because at the Reds game he offered to get me a beverage, and I very much enjoyed talking to him throughout the game too on the Bud Light deck. So shout out, I like Bacon.
He might like bacon, but I like bacon.
Number 1, obviously never misses a stream. Superstar Mark Fetters.
At some point, Mark Fetters is the Shohei Ohtani of the Chatterbox chat. We're
is.
gonna have to get some voter fatigue in here at some point because that man has planted his flag at the number 1 in our chat power rankings, and he hasn't budged in a long time.
I will say he got dangerously close to moving down a spot because of the comment that he made earlier in the week. It was close moving.
But if he fell out, it's okay because he would just drop to number 10 with everybody else, so he'd still be included.
But no, it was good. It was a good week. I think a lot of these rankings were like guys that we hung out with at the game, and it was a very good time. I really enjoyed it, especially before I go back to school. So, yeah. Shout out everyone in the chat.
Big shouts.
Big shouts. Big ups.
Big ups to the chat. Happy G Day, happy Slime Day, all the above.
What was the total likes? What did we get up to? What did you guys get up to? None of these likes go to me. What are these likes? We got up to
not a single one.
All right, we have of the people that we have remaining watching that have not liked it. Please go like it. It's not for me. It's for these guys here. Go like it for these guys. These guys put in all the groundwork. I appreciate them. We all have one thing in common. Me and the listeners. We all really love these guys. So go and support and like this dang stream. Like the page. Follow the page. Do everything you can to help grow that. You don't have to like me. That's fine. But like this page. Like the show. We appreciate you guys. And that wraps it up for us here this weekend, or this Friday heading into the weekend. Any closing thoughts? You said the Big Ten commercial was what?
Big Ten commercial was awesome.
It dropped.
Absolutely
What
incredible.
were you worried about? You kept saying the duck?
So for the last, I want to keep going over here, but for the last week or so, the Oregon Duck has been taking pictures outside of Big Ten stadiums, shaking the gate, saying, let me in, blah, 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 blah. I was worried that the new everyone knows the Big Ten map commercial, the famous panning of the whole country. I was worried the new Big Ten map commercial was going to follow the duck around the country to each stadium.
So you thought it was part of the
I thought it was going to be Oregon-centered, which would have made me so mad because they don't even belong in the Big Ten. But they didn't. They kept it the same. They just added Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA, pans the whole country, literally coast to coast. It's an incredible commercial.
I've got it if you
You
want.
got it? Let's run it. Let's run it to end the show. Wouldn't be the first one to get taken down.
I got it. And that's it.
That's incredible.
That's
That's
great.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful commercial. Fun fact about the Big Ten, 18 teams in the Big Ten, and the first one alphabetically is Illinois.
And
Fun
Michigan
fact.
cheats.
Fun fact.
And Michigan cheats.
Yeah. That's an easy fact. Michigan cheats. Now, everyone, have a great Friday. Have a great weekend. And Elliot comes back on Monday. I'm excited to hear how his vacation went.
And we're boxing. Box lunch here momentarily, so stick around.
I have a hot pocket today. So.
Ooh-wee.
Muy bien. Muy bien. Have a good weekend, everybody.